There is a specific word that God uses when the urgency is at a particular level, not the urgency of crisis, not the urgency of panic, the urgency of the person who has been watching something that was supposed to happen, who has been positioned at the edge of the assignment that was prepared, who has been holding the posture of readiness for a season, and who has now fallen behind in a way that changes the stakes of everything that follows. When God says drop everything, the word is not a suggestion. It is not encouragement to reprioritize. It is a signal that the gap between where the chosen one is positioned and where the chosen one is supposed to be positioned has reached a level that requires the immediate suspension of everything secondary in order to close it. The chosen one who receives the drop everything signal and treats it as a gentle nudge has misread the level of the urgency. The chosen one who receives it and actually drops everything is the one who finds out, on the other side of that act of dropping, exactly why the urgency was at the level it was. This message is for the chosen ones who have been receiving the drop everything signal and have been managing it rather than responding to it, who have been noting it in the interior and promising to address it after the next task, after the next season, after the next resolution of the current situation. This message is for the chosen one who is dangerously behind in the specific way that God is pointing to right now and who needs to understand, before anything else happens in this day, what the danger actually is and what the only path through it looks like. Let me explain what dangerously behind means, because the chosen one who hears that phrase from inside the frame of the world often hears it as a performance metric. Behind in the output, behind in the achievement, behind in the visible markers of progress that the world measures the success of the assigned life by. And that is not what God is saying when he says dangerously behind. The danger is not in the output gap. The danger is in the alignment gap. There is a form of being behind that has nothing to do with what you have produced and everything to do with where your interior is positioned relative to the divine timing of the assignment that was prepared for you. The alignment gap. The gap that forms between the interior posture of the chosen one and the interior posture that the next chapter of the assignment requires in order to be received fully. The gap between where the chosen one is standing in their interior right now and where the divine timing says the chosen one needs to be standing in order for the move that is already in preparation to land at the depth it was designed to reach. That gap is what makes the situation dangerous, not the lack of output, not the lack of visible progress. The alignment gap, the interior position gap, and the reason it is dangerous is not because God changes the plan based on the gap. God does not change the plan, but the size of the alignment gap at the moment when the move arrives determines the depth at which the arrival can be received. The move arrives at the appointed time regardless of the gap, but the move is received at the depth that the interior alignment makes possible at the moment of arrival. A large alignment gap at the moment of arrival means a partial reception of a full move, and a partial reception of a full move means the chosen one, who was supposed to be speechless at the depth of what was produced, ends up merely surprised at the surface of what was visible. The difference between speechless and merely surprised is the difference between the full form and the partial reception. And the alignment gap is the only variable that the chosen one can close. There are three kinds of behind that the chosen one can be in. The first is the circumstantial behind. The circumstances of the test season have created a visible gap between where the chosen one stands in the external world and where the assignment of the new season requires them to stand. This kind of behind is real, but it is not the dangerous kind, because the circumstantial gap is one that the appointed time was specifically designed to close. The move that is coming was designed for the circumstances of the person who went through the test. The circumstantial gap was factored into the plan before the plan was made. It is not a disqualification. It is the starting position of the new season. The second kind of behind is the relational behind. The chosen one who has been in the test season has often experienced a pulling back from certain relationships or a loss of proximity to certain people or communities that the assignment of the new season will require connection with. The relational gap that the test produced. This kind of behind is also real, and it is also addressed by the appointed time. The move that was planned includes the restoration of the relational connections that the assignment requires. The relational gap is not a permanent deficit. It is a gap that the arrival of the new season is specifically designed to close. The third kind of behind is the interior behind. This is the dangerous one. This is the gap that neither the appointed time nor the external move closes automatically. Because the interior behind is not produced by the circumstances of the test or by the relational pulling back of the test season, it is produced by the choices of the chosen one during the test. The specific choices about what to receive and what to process and what to practice and what to release during the test season. And unlike the circumstantial gap and the relational gap, the interior gap cannot be closed by an external move. It can only be closed by the chosen one who recognizes the gap and who responds to the drop everything signal with the full weight of the response it was designed to produce. The interior behind is built from 3 specific deficits that accumulate in the test season when the chosen one is managing the gap rather than closing it. The first deficit is the depth deficit. The depth that the test season was designed to build in the interior of the chosen one requires specific interior practices to develop. The breadth of delay, the signal recognition, the Darbar discipline, the identity declaration, the depth check. Those practices build the specific interior capacity that the new season requires in order to receive the full form of what is arriving. When those practices are replaced by the management of the surface-level demands of the test season, the depth deficit grows. And when the depth deficit grows to a certain level, the interior of the chosen one is not positioned to receive at the depth that the arriving move requires. The move arrives, but it lands at the level of the interior that is there to receive it, not the level that was possible if the depth practices had been maintained. The second deficit is the alignment deficit. The alignment of the interior with the direction of the assignment requires regular recalibration, not a dramatic realignment. A consistent, small recalibration that keeps the interior compass pointing in the direction of the assignment through the pressure and the distraction and the noise of the test season. When that recalibration is skipped, when the chosen one operates for extended periods without the interior compass check that keeps the direction clear, the alignment drifts, slowly, not dramatically. But the drift accumulates, and accumulated drift is the specific thing that creates the alignment gap that makes the dangerous behind what it is. Not one big moment of going off course. Many small, uncorrected drifts that compound into a gap that is now large enough to require the drop-everything response. The third deficit is the listening deficit. The chosen one who is behind in the listening is the one who has been receiving signals from the interior and from the atmosphere around them that carry information about the next step of the assignment, and who has been noting those signals without acting on them, not dismissing them, not denying them, noting them, filing them in the interior as things to address when the current pressure resolves. When there is more time, when the season is less demanding, but the signals that carry information about the next step of the assignment do not wait indefinitely for the chosen one to find a convenient window to process them. They have a window of full potency, and then they decay, not completely, not beyond recovery, but the signal that was potent at the moment it was sent and that was filed without action for 3 weeks is not as potent when it is finally retrieved from the filing system as it was at the moment it was sent. The chosen one, who has accumulated a backlog of unprocessed signals, is behind in the listening in the way that creates the specific compound deficit that is most difficult to recover from. Not because the signals cannot be retrieved, they can, but because the retrieval requires more interior work than the real-time reception would have required, and because the multiple layers of unprocessed signals sitting in the interior create a specific quality of interior noise that makes the clear reception of the current signal harder than it should be. The interior noise of the backlog is the specific form of interference that the drop-everything response is designed to clear. Before I describe what drop everything actually means, I want to place something specific in front of you. In the past 2 decades, a small group of clinical researchers studying the neuroscience of peak interior function discovered a specific pattern in the brains of people who remain anchored in clarity while under sustained pressure. Something that the average person under the weight of a long test season loses access to without knowing they have lost it. I am going to describe exactly what that is and why it matters for the chosen one who is behind. But first, hold this question. What if the difficulty you have been experiencing in the interior work is not a spiritual problem? What if something specific was taken from you at the neurological level? And what if the restoration is closer than you think? Let me describe what drop everything actually means in the context of the interior behind, because the phrase drop everything can be heard as hyperbole, as a figure of speech for prioritize this, and when it is heard as hyperbole, the response is proportional to how it was heard. A slight increase in the attention given to the spiritual dimension of life. A marginally earlier morning practice, an additional moment of prayer in the evening, a vague renewed intention to close the gap without the specific actions that closing a gap of this magnitude actually requires. Drop everything does not mean prioritize this alongside everything else at a slightly higher level. It means the temporary suspension of everything that is not essential to the closing of the alignment gap, so that the full interior resource can be applied to the specific work that the drop everything signal was identifying. The work of the depth deficit, the work of the alignment recalibration, the work of the listening backlog clearing. All 3 of those require the full interior resource for a concentrated period of time in order to close the gap to the level that the arriving move requires for its full reception. The question that the chosen one who is behind must answer is not whether the gap is real. It is real. The question is, what kind of behind this specific gap is? Which of the 3 deficits is the primary driver of the interior behind in the specific life of the specific chosen one who is receiving this message right now? For some chosen ones, the primary deficit is the depth deficit. They have been in the test season long enough, and the demands of the test were pressing enough that the interior practices of depth development were the first thing to be compressed when the bandwidth was insufficient for everything. The breadth of delay became intermittent. The Dabar discipline became occasional. The identity declaration became something they remember doing but have not done consistently in longer than they want to acknowledge. Those chosen ones are behind primarily in the depth, and the drop everything for them means the specific concentrated work of restoring the depth practices to the daily rhythm as the highest priority of the current period. For other chosen ones, the primary deficit is the alignment drift. They have the depth. The interior practices have been relatively maintained, but the compass has been off in a specific direction for a specific period of time, and the drift has accumulated to the point where the interior is pointing in a direction that is adjacent to the assignment but not precisely at the assignment. Those chosen ones are behind primarily in the alignment, and the drop everything for them means the specific interior work of the compass recalibration. The honest assessment of where the interior compass is currently pointing versus where the assignment requires it to point, and the deliberate, sustained, daily recalibration that closes the directional gap. For others, the primary deficit is the listening backlog. The depth is there. The alignment is relatively close. But there is a specific accumulation of unprocessed signals in the interior that is creating the noise level that is preventing the clear reception of the current signal that God is sending right now. The specific signals that were received and filed without processing. The specific encounters that carried information that was not integrated. The specific moments of interior knowing that were noted and set aside. Those chosen ones are behind primarily in the listening. And the drop everything for them means the specific work of the backlog clearing, the deliberate retrieval and processing of the accumulated signals in order of their arrival, so that the interior is cleared of the noise that the backlog produces and the clear channel of the listening is restored. I want to pause here and speak to the specific chosen ones in this message who have been receiving the drop everything signal for more than one season, who have been aware at some level of the interior behind for long enough that the awareness itself has become part of the background noise of the interior. The awareness of the gap has been present so long that it has lost its urgency, not because the gap has closed, because the awareness of it has normalized. And when the awareness of the gap normalizes, the urgency that was designed to produce the drop everything response loses its edge. The alarm has been sounding for long enough that the interior has learned to sleep through it. This message is the recalibration of the alarm, not a louder alarm, a clearer one. The alarm that speaks directly to the interior of the chosen one who has been behind long enough to normalize the awareness and who needs to hear, with the full clarity of the Daba that delivers it, exactly what the gap has cost and exactly what the concentrated response to the drop everything signal will produce. What the concentrated response to the drop everything signal will produce is proportionally the reverse of the cost. Every step of the assignment that was delayed by the alignment gap can be taken when the alignment is restored. Every signal that was received at partial resolution can be reprocessed at full resolution when the listening channel is cleared. Every depth that was available but inaccessible because the depth practices were compressed can be reclaimed when the practices are restored to the daily rhythm. The reversal of the cost of the gap is not instantaneous, but it begins at the moment the concentrated response begins, and it compounds in the direction of recovery in the same way the gap compounded in the direction of deficit. The urgency of this moment is not the urgency of the crisis, it is the urgency of the threshold. The appointed time for the move that was prepared for your specific life is arriving. The alignment that is required for the full reception of that move is achievable, but it requires the concentrated response now, before the arrival, rather than the recognition after the arrival, that the full form of what arrived was only partially received, because the alignment gap was not closed in time. God said, drop everything and watch. The watching is not passive observation of something happening on the outside. It is the active interior orientation of the full interior resource toward the specific work of the alignment. It is the direction of the full available attention toward the closing of the primary deficit. It is the suspension of everything secondary so that everything primary gets the full resource it requires. The watch is active. It is the most demanding thing the chosen one does in this specific period. Not demanding in the sense of exhausting, demanding in the sense of requiring the full interior presence rather than the divided attention of the person who is managing the gap alongside everything else. The chosen one who drops everything and watches in this specific period, who gives the full interior resource to the closing of the primary deficit, who suspends the secondary long enough to address the structural issue that the drop everything signal was identifying, will arrive at the moment of the move with an aligned interior that can receive the full form of what was prepared. And the full form of what was prepared is worth the full cost of the concentrated response. The speechlessness that is coming was planned for the version of the chosen one who closes the gap, who responds to the signal, who drops everything and watches. That version is available. The concentrated period of alignment work is the path to becoming that version before the move arrives. Let me walk through the specific things that the drop everything response requires in the practical terms of the daily life of the chosen one who is behind, not in spiritual generalities, in the specific interior actions of the concentrated period of alignment work. The first requirement is the identification of the time, not the vague intention to prioritize the interior work. The specific identification of the time in the daily rhythm when the concentrated work will happen. The morning practice, the 20 minutes before the rest of the household activates, the specific window in the afternoon when the external demands are lowest. The specific time matters because the interior work of closing the alignment gap requires the consistent daily investment rather than the occasional intensive session. The consistency of the daily time is more important than the duration of any single session. The drop everything response begins with the identification and protection of the specific daily window. The second requirement is the identification of the primary deficit. Which of the three deficits is the structural driver of the interior behind in the specific life of the chosen one receiving this message? The depth deficit, the alignment deficit, or the listening backlog? The identification of the primary deficit directs the concentrated work toward the most efficient path to the restoration of the alignment. Without the identification, the effort is distributed across all three deficits at an intensity that addresses none of them at the concentration required. With the identification, the full effort of the concentrated period goes to the structural issue that is generating the most compounding damage and that will produce the most efficient recovery when addressed with full resource. The third requirement is the release of the secondary. The drop everything response is not just the addition of the interior work to the existing daily schedule. It is the genuine, at least temporary, reduction of the secondary demands that have been filling the time and the interior resource that the concentrated alignment work requires, not the permanent abandonment of any responsibility. The temporary restructuring of the daily schedule so that the most important work gets the most important resource, including the most important resource of all, which is the clear and present interior attention of the chosen one who is doing the work. God said, "Drop everything and watch." The dropping is the beginning. The watching is the active orientation of everything that remains after the dropping toward the interior work of the alignment. And what is seen from inside the watching, from inside the active orientation of the aligned interior toward the move that is arriving, is the evidence that makes the speechlessness real. The evidence of the full reception, the evidence of the alignment restored at the threshold of the arrival. The evidence that the drop everything response produced the specific version of the chosen one who was positioned to receive the full form of what was prepared. Before we go further into the specific anatomy of the gap and the specific path of the recovery, I want to give you the specific tool that was designed for this exact period of concentrated alignment work. Not as an interruption of the message, but as the provision that makes the concentrated work achievable at the depth and consistency that the gap recovery requires. The primary deficit that underlies all three forms of the interior behind is a neurological one, not just a spiritual one. The test season produces a specific pattern of brain function that makes the interior work of depth development and alignment, recalibration, and listening channel clearing harder than it needs to be. The left hemisphere dominance that the test season entrenches, the dominance of the analytical and planning and problem-solving mode over the perceptual and receiving and pattern recognition mode, makes the specific interior work of the alignment gap recovery require more effort than it should. Because the interior work of the alignment is primarily right hemisphere work, signal recognition, depth reception, pattern perception, compass calibration, all of that is right hemisphere function. And the right hemisphere that was suppressed under the dominance of the test season left hemisphere does not automatically come back online at full function just because the test season is completing. That is what Dr. Daniel Barone, a neurologist practicing in New York City, spent 2 decades of clinical work understanding and developing a solution for. The neural synchronization technology that he built into the whole brain activation practice is specifically designed to restore the hemispheric integration that the test season suppressed. The whole brain activation practice that he developed uses the frequency layering and the neural synchronization architecture to bring the right hemisphere back online in relationship with the left hemisphere rather than in suppression. Under it, 8 minutes a day. That is the daily investment that the clinical practice showed was sufficient to produce the consistent neurological shift toward integration. The reason the daily 8-minute practice is the specific tool for this specific period of the drop everything response is that it addresses the neurological substrate of all 3 deficits. The depth deficit is driven in part by the right hemisphere suppression that makes deep interior receptivity less accessible. The alignment deficit is driven in part by the dominance of the analytical left hemisphere mode that assesses the assignment rather than perceiving it. The listening backlog is maintained in part by the left hemisphere pattern of filing and categorizing signals rather than processing them at the depth of reception that the right hemisphere enables. The whole brain activation practice addresses all 3 by restoring the integration that makes the right hemisphere function accessible in the ordinary activity of the alignment work. Dr. Barone built on the foundational research of Dr. Roger Sperry, whose Nobel Prize-winning work in 1981 documented the specific nature of the hemispheric split in the human brain. Dr. Sperry established that the 2 hemispheres of the brain process reality through fundamentally different modes. The left hemisphere processes sequentially, analyzes parts, operates in the language of logic and categorization. The right hemisphere processes holistically, perceives patterns, operates in the language of image and metaphor, and whole pattern recognition. In the fully integrated brain, the 2 hemispheres work together in a way that produces a quality of cognition and perception that neither can produce alone. In the brain that has been captured by sustained left hemisphere dominance, which is exactly what the test season produces through its unrelenting demand for the analytical and planning and problem-solving mode, that integration is suppressed. And the suppression of the integration is the neurological substrate of the interior behind. The tool is available through the link in the description of this message. The access point today is $39, down from the list price of $49, and comes with 4 complete bonus materials that extend the integration practice into the specific areas of the new season assignment. The 100% guarantee means there is no risk in the investment. The neural synchronization technology that Dr. Barone designed cannot be replicated on streaming platforms. The only access that carries the full technology and the full guarantee is through the description link. The link is there. The access is available right now. The chosen one who is dangerously behind is the chosen one whose current situation most requires this specific tool, not the chosen one who is flourishing in the alignment, the one who is behind. The one whose right hemisphere has been suppressed under the test season dominance for long enough that the interior work of the drop everything response is harder than it should be. The one who needs the neurological support that makes the concentrated work of the alignment gap recovery accessible in the 8-minute daily window that the drop everything protocol requires. That chosen one is exactly who this tool was prepared for. The gap and the tool were both present in the appointed time, because the appointed time was designed for the full recovery of the chosen one who received them both. The urgency of this message is not the urgency of fear. It is the urgency of the prepared path being fully visible and the window for the concentrated response being open right now. God said, drop everything and watch. The dropping has begun. The watching is the active interior orientation. The tool is available. The time is the concentrated period between now and the arrival of the move. And the arrival of the move is coming regardless of the size of the current gap. But what the chosen one receives when it arrives is determined by the alignment that is in place at the moment of arrival. The concentrated work of this period closes the gap. The drop everything response produces the aligned interior, and the aligned interior receives the full form of what was prepared. We are going to go much deeper into the specific anatomy of the gap in the next section, into the specific signs that confirm that the interior behind is real and is at the level that the drop everything signal is identifying, into the specific practices of the concentrated alignment work that address each of the 3 deficits, into the neurological dimension of the right hemisphere, suppression, and what the daily whole brain activation practice does to the architecture of the brain in the concentrated period of the recovery, and into the full form of the sacred closing that the 6th part of this message is designed to produce in the interior of the chosen one who receives it with the full depth of what the first 5 parts have built toward. But before we go there, I want to leave you with a single question to hold in your interior as this first section of the message closes, and as you prepare to go deeper. The question is this: which of the 3 deficits is the primary driver of the interior behind in your specific life right now? Not in general. In the specific quality of the interior experience of the recent weeks and months. Where has the gap been growing most consistently and most silently? Where has the alarm been sounding longest? Where is the drop everything signal pointing most directly? Hold that question. Do not answer it immediately. Let it settle in the interior. Let the honest awareness of the interior behind speak to the surface from the depth where it already knows the answer. Let the answer come from the depth rather than from the analysis, and carry the question into the next section of this message, where the specific signs of the gap will make the answer clearer, and the path of the concentrated response will be described with the full specificity that the urgency of this moment requires. God said, drop everything and watch. The watching begins in the interior that holds the question, that sits with the honest awareness. That opens to the specific signal that is being sent right now, with the full urgency of the appointed time that is arriving, and the alignment gap that has reached the level that the urgency identifies. Hold the question, open to the interior, knowing that already has the answer, and drop everything that is preventing the interior from receiving what God is saying right now. The message continues. There are 5 specific signs that the chosen one who is dangerously behind will recognize in their interior and in the atmosphere of their life right now. Not general signs of spiritual fatigue, not generic indicators of a difficult season, specific signs that the alignment gap has reached the level that the drop everything signal is identifying. These signs are not meant to produce guilt in the chosen one who recognizes them. They are meant to produce recognition. The recognition of the gap is the beginning of the response to the gap, and the response to the gap is the only path through the danger and into the full reception of what was prepared. The first sign is the quality of the response to the interior signal. The chosen one, who is at the alignment level that the new season requires, responds to the interior signals they receive with immediacy and depth. The signal lands, and the response comes from the interior, without the delay of the management mode. The chosen one, who is behind, responds to the same interior signals with a specific combination of recognition and deferral. They recognize the signal, they note its importance, they register that it requires a response, and then they file it without the response, with the intention of addressing it at a more convenient moment. If the filing without response has become the default pattern of your engagement with the interior signals you receive, that specific pattern is the first sign. The second sign is the quality of the sleep, not the quantity, the quality. The chosen one at alignment level wakes up in the morning with a degree of interior clarity that makes the first action of the day relatively straightforward, not effortless, not without challenge, but clear. The chosen one who is behind wakes up in the morning carrying a specific quality of interior weight that is not fatigue, not the heaviness of physical exhaustion, the heaviness of unprocessed interior material, the backlog of signals that were filed without processing sitting in the interior as a specific quality of weight that makes the morning different from what it should be. If the quality of your mornings has been carrying a specific weight that is not physical tiredness and that does not resolve with more rest, that quality is the second sign. The third sign is the quality of the creative output. The chosen one at alignment level produces from a place that feels connected to the source. The work flows from the depth that was built in the interior practice. The ideas come from the pattern perception of the right hemisphere that is functioning at integration. The fourth sign is the quality of the prayer, not the frequency. The quality. The chosen one at alignment level prays from a depth that makes the prayer feel like a real communication with the interior of the God who receives it. There is a receiving quality to the prayer, a two-directional quality. The chosen one who is behind prays from the surface of the verbal mind. The words are there, the intention is there, but the receiving channel is occupied by the backlog of the unprocessed signals and the depth deficit and the alignment drift. The prayer goes out, but the interior is not clear enough to receive what comes back. If your prayers have been feeling like transmissions without reception, like words sent into a space that should have a response, but that feel like they are not landing at the depth they were sent from, that quality is the fourth sign. The fifth sign is the quality of the encounter with the presence. The chosen one, at alignment level, has encounters with the presence of God that leave a residue in the interior, a lasting quality of the encounter that remains after the encounter is over. The chosen one who is behind has encounters with the presence that feel more distant than they should, not absent, not disconnected entirely, but at the level of the surface rather than the level of the depth that the encounter was designed to produce. The encounter happens, but the depth at which it is received is limited by the depth of the interior that receives it. And the interior that is behind in the depth practices and the alignment recalibration and the listening backlog clearing receives the encounter at the level of what is available rather than the level of what was prepared. If you recognized any of these 5 signs in your interior experience of the recent weeks and months, the recognition is not a cause for fear, it is a cause for response. The 5 signs are not evidence of spiritual failure. They are evidence of a specific gap between where the interior is positioned right now and where the interior needs to be positioned for the full reception of what is arriving. And the gap is closable. That is the essential piece of information that the recognition of the signs is designed to deliver. The gap is real. The urgency is real. The danger is real, but the gap is closable, and the path of the closing is available. Let me describe the second dimension of the dangerous behind that this message is specifically addressing. The first dimension was the interior behind, the alignment gap that makes the full reception of the arriving move partial rather than complete. The second dimension is the temporal behind. The chosen one who is behind in the interior is almost always also behind in the specific temporal dimension of the assignment. The things that were supposed to be in motion by now that are not yet in motion. The steps that were supposed to have been taken by now that have not yet been taken. The doors that were supposed to have been approached by now that have not yet been approached. The temporal behind is not the same as the circumstantial behind. The circumstantial behind is the gap produced by the test season circumstances. The temporal behind is the gap produced by the deferral of specific actions that the interior was calling the chosen one to take and that were deferred in favor of the management of the current situation. Every deferred action compounds in two ways. First, in the obvious way. The thing that was supposed to be in motion is still not in motion. Second, in the less obvious way, the interior register of the chosen one who has been deferring the specific calls to action becomes increasingly occupied by the weight of the deferred items, not as guilt, as a specific quality of interior incompletion that sits in the background of the interior experience, and that is always drawing a portion of the interior resource away from the present moment toward the unresolved background. The person who has a large number of deferred actions sitting in the interior background has less interior resource available for the present moment than the person who has taken the called-for actions and whose interior is free of the weight of the deferred items. The temporal behind is not just about the external gap in what was supposed to be in motion. It is about the interior resource drain that the deferred items produce. And the interior resource drain is one of the specific factors that makes the depth deficit and the alignment deficit and the listening backlog harder to address, because the resource that is needed for the depth practices and the alignment work is partially occupied by the weight of the deferred temporal items. The resolution of the temporal behind is not a single dramatic action. It is the systematic taking of the first small step for each deferred item in order of the interior urgency that the interior registers when each item is brought to full attention, not the completion of each deferred action in one session, the first step. Because the first step does two things simultaneously. It begins the movement of the deferred item out of the interior background and into the active motion of the present. And it releases the interior resource that was being drawn by the weight of the unresolved item back into the pool of available resource for the present moment. The chosen one who takes the first small step for each of the 5 most pressing deferred items in their interior, in order of interior urgency, will experience a specific quality of interior lightening that is disproportionate to the size of the action taken, because the action does not just produce the output of the first step. It releases the weight of the unresolved item from the interior background, and the release of 5 items of interior weight, even at the first step level, produces a measurable shift in the available interior resource for the depth practices and the alignment work that the drop everything response requires. And before the next section opens, I want to return briefly to what was mentioned earlier in this message. The research that unlocked the specific neurological reason the interior work is harder than it should be, and the 8-minute daily practice that addresses it directly remains available through the link in the description. Everything that follows in this message will make that resource even more relevant. Keep it in mind as you receive what comes next. There is a specific quality of the dangerous behind that I need to address directly, because It is the quality that the chosen one, who has been behind for an extended period, is most likely to be carrying without naming it. It is the quality of the interior apology. The interior apology is the state of the chosen one who is behind and who knows they are behind and who has been carrying a low-level interior apology to God for the gap, not a spoken apology. A background quality of the interior that is characterized by the sense that the relationship with God is operating under the specific weight of the owed acknowledgement of the gap. The interior apology has the quality of a conversation that has been incomplete for an extended period. The parties to the conversation are both present, but the conversation cannot move fully forward because the incomplete thing is sitting in the space between them and is drawing the attention of both toward itself rather than toward the full engagement of the present interaction. The chosen one in the interior apology state interacts with God from beneath the weight of the owed acknowledgement, and the weight of the owed acknowledgement prevents the full depth of the interaction. The release of the interior apology is not a dramatic confrontation. It is a specific interior act. The act of naming the gap directly to God, not in the language of ritual confession, but in the language of the honest interior conversation between the chosen one and the God who already knows the gap, with a clarity that exceeds the chosen one, self-awareness of it. The act of naming it directly releases it from the weight of the owed acknowledgement into the space of the addressed and released. And the release of the interior apology produces a specific quality of interior clearing that is the prerequisite for the full depth of the engagement with the drop-everything work that follows. The naming does not need to be long. It does not need to be elaborate or precise in its theological formulation. It needs to be honest. It needs to be direct. It needs to come from the depth of the interior that knows the gap rather than from the surface of the verbal mind that is performing the acknowledgement. The shortest version of the naming is the most powerful, and the shortest version is simply this: I know I have been behind. I know what the behind has cost. I am here now, with whatever interior is available, responding to the drop-everything signal that I have been receiving and that I am ready to respond to now. The third dimension of the dangerous behind is the relational behind, not the relational gap of the test season that the appointed time was designed to close automatically. The relational behind in the specific relationships that the assignment of the new season requires and that the chosen one has been deferring engagement with for the same reason that all of the deferrals have been happening. The interior resource was not sufficient. The timing did not feel right. The current pressure of the test was too demanding for the investment that the specific relational connections would require. But the relational connections of the new season assignment are not peripheral to the assignment. They are constitutive of it. The assignment of the new season is not an individual performance. It is a network of specific relationships and collaborations and connections that together produce what the individual assignment alone cannot produce. And the chosen one who arrives at the new season without having made the specific relational investments that the assignment requires is behind in the third dimension of the dangerous, behind in a way that the assigned work itself cannot compensate for. The relational behind is addressed not by dramatic reconnection events, but by the specific small investment of genuine attention in the specific relationships that the interior identifies as the ones that the assignment requires. The chosen one who gives 15 minutes of genuine, undivided, depth-level attention to each of the three most assignment-relevant relationships in their current life, in the concentrated period of the drop-everything response, produces more relational restoration than 3 hours of divided attention would produce. Because the genuine depth-level attention is what the relational connection responds to, not the duration, the quality. And the quality of the depth-level attention is exactly the resource that the whole brain activation practice restores, because the depth-level attention is primarily a right hemisphere function that the test season suppressed. This brings us back to the specific tool that was prepared for this specific period of the concentrated alignment work. The connection between the neurological restoration and the relational restoration and the interior depth restoration and the temporal behind resolution is not accidental. All four are driven by the same underlying deficit: the right hemisphere suppression that the test season produced, the left hemisphere dominance that the test season entrenched, the disconnection between the analytical mode and the perceptual mode that makes all of the drop everything work harder than it needs to be. The daily practice by Dr. Daniel Barone addresses the underlying neurological driver of all four dimensions of the dangerous behind simultaneously. The whole brain activation practice brings the right hemisphere online in integration with the left. The depth of attention that was suppressed becomes available. The pattern perception that makes the signal recognition work becomes accessible. The relational depth of the genuine attention becomes sustainable. The creative flow that was replaced by technical competence returns to the interior of the work. 8 minutes every day. That is the daily investment that produces the neurological baseline shift that makes the drop-everything response sustainable in the daily rhythm of the concentrated alignment period. The $39 access point that is available through the link in the description of this message is the same access that carries the full neural synchronization technology, the 4 bonus materials, and the 100% guarantee. The list price of $49 represents the value of the clinical design that Dr. Barone developed over 2 decades of neurological practice. The $39 today window is the appointed time access for the chosen ones who receive this message at the moment when the concentrated alignment work has become the highest priority and when the neurological support for that work is most needed. The practice is not available on streaming platforms. The neural synchronization technology requires the full audio architecture that compressed streaming formats cannot carry. The description link is the only access that works, the only version that carries the full technology and the full guarantee. Use the description link. Before the next section of this message begins, I want to give you a specific interior practice for the concentrated period that we are building toward. The practice is called the 3-item morning clearing. It takes 3 minutes and it is designed to be done in the morning before the first external engagement of the day, as the opening act of the concentrated alignment period. The 3-item morning clearing works as follows. In the first minute, bring your full interior attention to the specific interior behind, not all of it at once. The single most pressing item of the 3 dimensions of the behind that is most on the surface of your interior this morning. The depth deficit, the alignment drift, the listening backlog, the temporal behind, the relational behind, the interior apology. Whichever single item is most on the surface, bring it fully to attention. Name it directly to God. Then release it into the holding of the God who holds everything that is released to him. Not the abandonment of the responsibility for it, the release of the weight of carrying it alone into the presence of the one who can address it at the level it actually requires. In the second minute, identify the one small action that, if taken today, would begin the movement of the most pressing item from the background of the interior into the active motion of the present. Not the completion of the item. The first small step. The one action that the interior knows is the next step for this item, and that has been deferred. Name that action. Hold it in the interior with the full clarity of the intention to take it today, not later, not when it is convenient. Today, in the 3rd minute, declare the specific quality of the interior that the new season requires, not a general declaration of spiritual readiness. The specific quality. If the primary deficit is depth, declare the depth. If it is alignment, declare the alignment. If it is the listening, declare the listening. Speak the specific interior quality directly into the interior as the declaration of the posture that the concentrated period is building toward. And then begin the day from that declaration rather than from the weight of the behind. We are building toward the specific anatomy of the drop everything work in the next sections of this message. The specific practices for each of the 3 primary deficits. The specific neurological understanding of what the whole brain activation practice does to the architecture of the brain in the concentrated period, and the specific way that the alignment gap closes when the concentrated work is done consistently in the daily rhythm. But before we go there, take the question from the first section with you into the next section. The question of which deficit is the primary driver of your specific interior behind. The second sign, the quality of the sleep, and the 5th sign, the quality of the encounter with the presence, are the most reliable indicators of the primary deficit. Carry the recognition of those 2 signs into the next section and let the specific path of the concentrated work become clear. There is one more dimension of the dangerous behind that this message would be incomplete without addressing: the vision behind. The chosen one who is behind in the vision is the one who entered the test season with a clear interior vision of the assignment that was being built toward, and who has, over the course of the test, watched the sharpness of that vision decrease. Not the vision itself, not the direction or the substance of what the interior was pointing toward, the sharpness, the resolution, the quality of the seeing that made the vision feel close and real and achievable from inside the days of the early calling season. The vision behind is produced by the accumulation of the compound pressure of the test. Every day that the circumstances of the test contradict the substance of the vision adds a small amount of blurring to the interior resolution of the vision, not enough to erase it in any single day. But accumulated over many days and many seasons, the blurring produces a quality of interior vision that is considerably lower resolution than the vision that was present at the beginning of the calling. The chosen one who is behind in the vision does not doubt the vision. They simply cannot see it as clearly as they once could. And the inability to see it clearly makes the interior compass harder to follow, because the compass points in the direction of the vision and the blurred vision creates a blurred direction. The restoration of the vision is not a matter of manufacturing new enthusiasm for the assignment. The enthusiasm manufactured from the surface is not vision restoration. It is motivational overlay. And motivational overlay fades faster than it was built because it does not address the underlying blurring that produced the problem. The actual restoration of the vision requires the specific interior practice of the deliberate re-engagement with the original quality of the vision, not the reconstruction of a memory. The re-encounter with the living substance of the original interior, knowing that the calling produced. The re-encounter practice works as follows. The chosen one who has experienced vision blurring brings their interior to the specific quality of the stillness that the breath of delay produces. From inside that stillness, they ask the interior a single question. Not a question about the assignment, not a question about the next steps. A question about the original quality of the interior experience that the calling produced at its moment of greatest clarity. What was the quality of the interior in the clearest moment of the vision? Not what the vision showed. What the interior felt like when the vision was at its highest resolution. What the quality of the knowing was. What the quality of the certainty was. but the quality of the interior experience of the original clarity is more stable than the content, and re-encountering the quality reorients the interior compass toward the direction of the assignment, even when the specific content of the next chapter of the vision is not yet clear. The quality re-encounter practice, done consistently for 7 days in the morning, before the external engagement of the day, produces a measurable restoration of the interior vision resolution in most chosen ones. Not the full restoration in 7 days, but a measurable increase in the clarity that the interior compass registers. And the increased clarity of the interior compass increases the quality of the alignment work that the drop everything response requires, because alignment with a blurred vision is alignment at the level of the blur. Alignment with a restored vision is alignment at the level of the full clarity that the original calling produced. The neurological dimension of the vision blurring is the same neurological dimension that underlies all of the other deficits of the dangerous behind. The interior vision is processed primarily in the right hemisphere of the brain, the holistic pattern perception, the whole scene comprehension, the capacity to see the full shape of the assignment simultaneously rather than analyzing it piece by piece. When the right hemisphere is suppressed under the left hemisphere dominance that the test season produces, the interior vision loses resolution because the cognitive function that generates the vision is operating below its full integration level. This is why the daily 8-minute practice is not just a general cognitive improvement, it is the specific neurological restoration that addresses the specific neurological deficit that produces the vision blurring. The neural synchronization technology that Dr. Barone built into the whole brain activation practice brings the right hemisphere back online at full integration. And as the right hemisphere integration is restored, the interior vision resolution increases, not immediately, not overnight, but consistently over the days and weeks of the daily practice. The vision that was blurred by the test season, suppression of the right hemisphere function, becomes progressively clearer as the neurological integration is progressively restored. The chosen one who is dangerously behind is the chosen one who needs the neurological restoration most urgently. Not because the danger is primarily neurological, the danger is primarily spiritual and interior, but because the neurological function is the substrate on which the spiritual and interior work is done. The depth practices work through the neurological architecture of the right hemisphere perception. The alignment work works through the neurological architecture of the whole brain integration. The vision restoration works through the neurological architecture of the right hemisphere, whole pattern comprehension. And the listening channel clearing works through the neurological architecture of the signal reception that the right hemisphere enables. Every dimension of the concentrated alignment work of the drop everything response is made more accessible and more sustainable by the daily restoration of the neurological integration that the tool produces. Not as a replacement for the spiritual and interior work, as the neurological support that makes the spiritual and interior work accessible in the ordinary moments of the concentrated period, rather than only in the extraordinary moments of the interior peak experience. Lisa, a registered nurse in San Diego, described the experience of the neurological restoration this way. For the first weeks of the daily practice, she noticed that the quality of her morning was different, not dramatically, subtly different. The interior weight that had been present in her mornings for the duration of her test season was lighter, not gone, lighter. She described it as the background noise level of her interior being reduced enough that she could hear the morning signal more clearly. The signals that had been filing themselves in the background were coming forward more easily into the conscious attention, and the quality of the prayer that had been feeling distant was beginning to feel less distant. not fully restored, moving in the direction of restoration. Matthew, a business owner in Houston, described the restoration of the creative function as the first and most noticeable effect of the daily practice. He had been producing competent work throughout the test season, but he had been aware for a long time that the quality of the ideas coming through the work was lower than what had been present before the test season began. The right hemisphere connection to the creative synthesis that the integration produces had been suppressed. When the integration began to restore through the daily practice, the quality of the ideas that came through the work began to shift in a way that he described as the work feeling alive again rather than technically functional. Ellie, a woman in Manhattan who had been carrying the interior weight of a generational pattern of deferred assignment in her family line, described the most significant effect of the neurological restoration as the shift in her capacity to receive the interior knowing about the pattern and what it required. She had been in the test for a long time, longer than one generation, in the sense that the pattern she was dealing with had been present in the family line before her. The interior knowing about the pattern was there, but the capacity to receive it at the level of the full pattern perception, to see the full shape of what was happening rather than just the piece-by-piece analysis of the individual symptoms, had been limited by the right hemisphere suppression of the extended test. The daily practice restored the full pattern perception, and the full pattern perception of the generational pattern was what produced the interior knowing of the specific act of declaration that broke the generational pattern in her family line. All three were addressed by the same neurological restoration, the daily 8-minute practice, the whole brain activation. The neural synchronization technology available through the description link at $39 today with the full 100% guarantee. The message is moving toward the specific path of the drop everything response in the next section. The specific concentrated work of the primary deficit. The specific daily rhythm of the alignment restoration. The specific interior practices that produce the full form of the gap closure before the arrival of the move. And the full understanding of what the gap closure produces in the interior experience of the chosen one who completes it. The version of the chosen one who arrives at the arrival of the move with the aligned interior. The version who receives the full form. The version who becomes speechless at the depth of what was produced rather than merely surprised at the surface of what was visible. The message continues. The alarm has been recalibrated. The gap has been named. The path of the concentrated response is coming into full view. And the version of you that closes the gap before the move arrives is the version that receives the full form of what was prepared. God said, drop everything and watch. Drop everything and watch. The concentrated alignment work that the drop everything response requires has a specific architecture, not a vague commitment to more spiritual activity. A specific architecture of daily practices, each one targeting a specific layer of the interior deficit, each one building on the others in a sequence that produces the full gap closure rather than the partial closure that a scattered approach would produce. The architecture has 3 levels: the foundational level, the alignment level, the activation level. Each level has its own daily practice and its own specific contribution to the restoration of the interior position that the arriving move requires. Let me walk through the foundational level first, because it is the one that most chosen ones skip when they attempt the concentrated alignment work on their own. The foundational level is not the most exciting level. It is not the level that produces the most dramatic interior experiences, but it is the level that makes the alignment and activation levels sustainable. Without the foundational level, the alignment and activation practices produce a temporary elevation that the underlying deficit collapses back down from within days. With the foundational level, the alignment and activation practices build on a stable base that allows the gains to compound rather than oscillate. The foundational practice is the interior inventory, not a general assessment of where things stand spiritually. A specific written inventory of the exact state of each of the three deficits in the interior of the chosen one at the beginning of the concentrated period. The inventory is written rather than thought, because writing requires the left hemisphere to retrieve and articulate what the right hemisphere perceives. And the act of articulating the interior state through writing produces a clarity of the interior perception that the unexternalized thought does not produce. The chosen one who thinks about their interior state tends to reach the same assessment with minor variations each time. The chosen one who writes about their interior state tends to discover details of the state that the unwritten thought had been managing below the threshold of full conscious attention. The inventory covers 3 items. First, the depth inventory. Write in specific terms what the depth level of the interior feels like right now, not in spiritual jargon, in the language of direct interior experience. What does the quality of the interior silence feel like this morning? What is the depth of the prayer feeling like this week? What is the quality of the signal reception in the interior? Specific observations, specific quality descriptors, not evaluations of whether the depth is good or bad, observations of what the depth is. Second, the alignment inventory. Write in specific terms what the interior compass is pointing toward right now. Where is the interior oriented? What is drawing the attention of the interior at the first moment of the day before the external demands activate? What thought arrives first in the morning when the day has not yet begun to fill the interior with its demands? What the quality of the interior direction feels like? Is it clear or blurred? Is it consistent day to day, or does it shift based on the pressure of the circumstances? Write the specific observations without the overlay of what the direction is supposed to be, just what it is. Third, the listening inventory. Write in specific terms what the interior registers as the backlog of unprocessed signals, not every signal that has ever been received. The specific items that come forward when the interior is asked directly what it has been holding that has not yet been processed. The items that have a quality of waiting, the specific encounters, the specific interior knowings, the specific signals from the atmosphere of the life that arrived and were filed without the full processing they required. Write them, not in order of importance, in order of the interior urgency that surfaces when they are brought to full attention. The written inventory is not a journaling exercise. It is a diagnostic tool. The specific function of the written inventory at the beginning of the concentrated period is to produce the exact interior map that the rest of the concentrated work will navigate. Without the map, the concentrated work operates from a general sense of what needs to be addressed. With the map, the concentrated work addresses the exact items in the exact depth, with the exact practices that each item requires. The inventory is done once at the beginning of the concentrated period, and it is reviewed at the midpoint of the concentrated period to measure the specific progress in each of the 3 deficit areas. After the inventory, the foundational level continues with the second foundational practice, which is the specific clearing of the most urgent item in the listening backlog. Not all of the backlog items. The most urgent one, the one that came forward first when the inventory was done, the one that carries the highest quality of interior urgency when it is brought to full attention. The clearing of that one item is the second daily practice of the foundational level for the first week of the concentrated period. The clearing practice for a backlog item works in 2 steps. The first step is the full reception. The chosen one brings the item to full conscious attention and allows the full weight of it to be present in the interior. Not the management of it, the full presence of it. This step is the most uncomfortable step, because the full presence of a long-filed item often reveals that the item has been carrying more weight in the interior background than the management mode had acknowledged. The full presence is not the production of distress. It is the honest acknowledgement of the actual weight, and the honest acknowledgement of the actual weight is the prerequisite for the actual release of the weight. The second step is the response. For each backlog item, there is a specific response that the interior already knows is the appropriate response, and that has been deferred. For some items, the response is a specific action. For others, it is a specific interior release. For others, it is a specific conversation that has been deferred. For others, it is the acceptance of something that the interior has been resisting. The clearing practice brings the item to full presence and then takes the first small step of the specific response that the interior already knows is required. Not the full resolution of the item, the first step, the step that begins the movement of the item from the background of the interior to the active resolution of the present. The alignment level is the second level of the concentrated work architecture. It builds on the foundational level and it operates through two specific practices. The first alignment practice is the interior compass recalibration. The second is the Dabar discipline restoration. The interior compass recalibration is the daily practice of bringing the interior attention to the specific quality of the assignment direction that the calling established, and asking the interior whether the current orientation of the compass daily activity is aligned with that direction or adjacent to it. Not a dramatic realignment event, a daily 1-minute check of the interior compass against the direction of the assignment. What is the interior currently oriented toward? What is generating the first movement of the daily energy? Is that first movement in the direction of the assignment or in the direction of the management of what the assignment has not yet produced? The daily compass check takes 1 minute. And the daily compass check, done consistently for the concentrated period, produces a progressive recalibration that compounds toward the full alignment, rather than oscillating between alignment and drift. The Dabar discipline restoration is the second alignment practice. The Dabar discipline is the specific practice of holding the mouth about the interior state of the assignment during the period when the assignment is in the formation stage of the new season. The chosen one, who is behind, has often been using the mouth in ways that contradict the Dabar discipline. Not always in dramatic ways, in the subtle ways that the interior knowing flags, but that the verbal mind overrides. The casual mention of what is not yet formed, the premature sharing of what is still in the early stage of arrival. The speaking about the interior state in ways that narrow the space for the full expression to arrive. The Dabar discipline restoration practice is not a vow of silence. It is the daily practice of the deliberate choice about what to speak and what to hold. In the morning of each day in the concentrated period, the chosen one identifies the specific interior items that belong in the held category for that day. The things that the interior knows are in formation and that need the protection of the non-speaking in order to complete their formation. The things that have been spoken prematurely and that need a period of the non-speaking to allow the interior to catch up to the spoken version. The identification of the held category each morning is the Dabar discipline restoration practice, and the daily practice of the holding over the concentrated period restores the interior climate of the chosen one to the quality that the arrival of the move requires. The activation level is the third level of the concentrated work architecture. It is the level that the first two levels make possible, not the level that replaces them. The activation level works through the specific interior practices that bring the receiving capacity of the chosen one to the full depth of what the arriving move requires. The activation level practices are not the foundational clearing and the alignment recalibration. They are the specific practices of the depth that the formation season was building toward. The extended breath of delay is not meditation in the general sense. It is not the emptying of the mind. It is the deliberate settling of the interior from the left hemisphere, surface mode of analysis and planning and problem solving, into the right hemisphere, depth mode of receptive attention and pattern perception and whole scene comprehension. The settling takes time. The first 5 minutes of the extended breath of delay session are often occupied by the surface activity of the left hemisphere processing the day. The second 5 minutes begin to produce the settling. The last 5 minutes, when they arrive, are characterized by a quality of interior stillness and receptive attention that is qualitatively different from the first 5 minutes. The quality of the receiving that the arriving move requires lives in the last 5 minutes. The chosen one who makes the extended breath of delay a daily practice for the concentrated period develops the capacity to access that quality of depth more quickly over time. The first session may require the full 15 minutes to reach the depth. The 10th session may reach the same depth in 8 minutes. The 20th session may reach it in 5. The daily practice builds the neurological pathway to the depth so that the depth becomes progressively more accessible in the ordinary moments of the day rather than only in the deliberately created stillness of the practice session. The second activation practice is the identity declaration from the new season posture. Not the identity declaration of the test season, which is the declaration of who you are in the face of the circumstances that contradict it. The identity declaration of the arrival period, which is the declaration of the full version of the chosen one who has been through the test and who is arriving at the threshold of the new season with the formation of the test season intact. The new season identity declaration is spoken from the receiving posture rather than from the pressing posture. It does not press the identity against the resistance of the test season circumstances. It receives the identity as the full expression of what the test built. It speaks from the depth of the interior that the test formed. And it declares not what the chosen one is pressing to become, but what the chosen one already is and has been becoming through the concentrated work of the test. The full form of the new season identity declaration is specific to the specific chosen one who speaks it, not a generic spiritual affirmation. The specific declaration of the specific person, the specific depth, the specific formation, the specific identity that the test built. But there are 3 elements that every version of the new season identity declaration carries. The first element is the acknowledgement of the test, not the recounting of the test history. The simple acknowledgement that the test was real, that it was long, that it produced what it was designed to produce, and that the person speaking the declaration is the person who came through the other side of it, carrying what the test built. The acknowledgement is one sentence, not more. One clear, honest, specific sentence that names the test and acknowledges its formation. The second element is the declaration of the formation, the specific interior qualities that the test built, not in general terms. In the specific terms of the interior experience of the chosen one who speaks the declaration, the depth, the patience, the purified desire, the capacity for silence, the undistracted orientation, the specific qualities of the specific formation of this specific chosen one, named and declared. Not as a performance of spiritual achievement, as the honest naming of what the test produced in the interior. The full concentrated work architecture, the foundational level, the alignment level, and the activation level is designed to be completed in a 25 to 30-minute daily window. The inventory is done once at the beginning of the period and reviewed once at the midpoint. The daily practices that follow fit within the 25-minute window when done with the focus and the presence that the concentrated period requires. But the 25-minute window requires a quality of interior focus and presence that the test season suppressed, the right hemisphere depth that the receiving practices require, the pattern perception that the compass recalibration requires, the signal sensitivity that the listening backlog clearing requires. All of those require the right hemisphere to be functioning at the level of integration that makes the practices accessible in their full depth rather than at the partial depth of the left hemisphere dominant brain. This is where the daily 8-minute practice by Dr. Daniel Barone becomes the specific tool that makes the concentrated alignment work architecture sustainable in the daily rhythm of the chosen one who is behind. The whole brain activation practice that Dr. Barone developed using the neural synchronization technology is not a replacement for the concentrated work. It is the neurological preparation that makes the concentrated work accessible at the depth it requires. The 8-minute practice is done before the 25-minute concentrated work session, not as a warm-up, as the neurological preparation. The neural synchronization of the whole brain activation brings the right hemisphere online at full integration before the concentrated work begins. And the right hemisphere at full integration makes the inventory perceptions sharper, the backlog item processing deeper, the compass recalibration more accurate, the breath of delay faster to reach its full depth, and the identity declaration more fully grounded in the actual depth of the interior that speaks it. The result is that the 33-minute total daily investment of the 8-minute whole brain activation practice, followed by the 25-minute concentrated work session, produces more interior restoration per day than an hour of undirected spiritual activity would produce, because the neurological preparation amplifies the quality of the concentrated work. The right hemisphere at full integration doing the concentrated work is qualitatively more effective than the left hemisphere dominant brain doing the same concentrated work. Not more effortful, more effective. The integration makes the depth accessible. The depth accessible makes the practices land at the level they were designed to land at. And the practices landing at the full depth produce the gap closure that the partial depth attempt at the same practices does not produce. Dr. Barone built the whole brain activation practice on the foundational research of Dr. Roger Sperry, who won the Nobel Prize in 1981 for documenting the specific nature of the hemispheric split. Dr. Sperry established that the two hemispheres process reality through fundamentally different modes, and that their integration produces a quality of cognition that neither can produce alone. Dr. Barone built the clinical application of that research into the neural synchronization technology. The access is through the description link at $39 today, with the 4 bonus materials and the 100% guarantee. The description link is the only access that carries the full neural synchronization technology, not available on streaming platforms, only through the description link. There is a specific quality of the interior that the chosen one who completes the written inventory for the first time discovers that they had not named before. It is the quality of the interior weight that the inventory reveals rather than describes. The inventory does not just capture the state of the interior, it reveals the weight of the state. The depth deficit that seemed manageable from inside the management mode appears heavier on the written page than it appeared in the interior thought. The listening backlog that was being handled as a rolling set of deferred items appears more substantial when it is written as a complete list in one sitting. The alignment drift that was being noted in small increments appears more significant when the cumulative drift is visible in the written inventory as a single direction rather than as individual small deviations. This revelation effect of the written inventory is not intended to produce discouragement. It is intended to produce accurate assessment. The management mode of the test season is specifically designed to prevent the full weight of the interior situation from being fully assessed at once, because the full assessment would compete with the management function that the test season requires. But the concentrated period requires the full assessment, the accurate map, the honest picture of the current interior state. And the written inventory is the tool that produces the accurate map by removing the management filter and allowing the full weight to be visible in the written page. The chosen one who reads the written inventory they just produced and who feels a wave of interior recognition at the size of the gap they just mapped is the chosen one who is ready to begin the concentrated work from the right, starting position, not from the position of the person who has convinced themselves that the gap is smaller than it is, and who therefore calibrates the concentrated work at the level of the minimized gap rather than the level of the actual gap. The starting position of honest recognition is the starting position from which the full concentrated work is possible. The honest recognition does not require a period of processing before the concentrated work begins. The written inventory is the processing. The act of writing the inventory is the act of receiving the full weight of the interior state at the level it actually is, rather than the level that the management mode had been managing it at. And the receiving of the full weight at the level it actually is, done from the posture of the one who already knows that the gap is closable and that the concentrated work is the path of the closing, produces the specific interior quality of the motivated clear-sightedness rather than the discouraging overwhelm that the same information produces in the person who receives it, without the context of the closable gap. The second thing that the written inventory reveals, beyond the weight of the current gap, is the pattern of the gap formation. The chosen one who looks at the three items of the written inventory together rather than separately will often see a pattern in the timing of when each deficit deepened most significantly. The pattern of the gap formation is as important as the content of the gap itself. Because the pattern reveals the specific trigger, the specific circumstance or period or type of pressure that produces the most significant deepening of the deficit, and the identification of the trigger is the foundational piece of information for the prevention of the gap reformation after the concentrated work has closed the current gap. The gap prevention is part of the concentrated period work, not a post-concentrated period concern. Because the gap that is closed without the identification of the formation trigger is a gap that will reform under the same trigger that formed it the first time. The chosen one who closes the current gap and who also identifies the specific formation trigger of the gap builds the interior awareness of the trigger into the daily rhythm, so that the early identification of the trigger in the future can produce the early response rather than the late stage, drop everything response that the danger level requires right now. The trigger identification exercise is simple. After writing the three-item inventory, the chosen one asks the interior a single question. When in the past year did each of these three deficits deepen most significantly? Not the entire history of the deficit, just the most significant deepening in the past year, and what was happening in the life at that moment. What was the pressure or the circumstance or the demand that was highest at the moment when the deepening happened? For most chosen ones, the trigger will be identifiable as one of three types. The relational pressure trigger, where the deepening of the deficit happened in connection with a specific relational pressure or conflict or loss. The assignment pressure trigger, where the deepening happened in connection with a specific pressure around the progress or the lack of progress of the assignment. Or the identity pressure trigger, where the deepening happened in connection with a specific challenge to the interior identity, a comparison, a rejection, a contradictory feedback from the environment. The identification of the trigger type is the beginning of the trigger awareness that prevents the gap reformation. Once the trigger type is identified, the foundational level of the concentrated work includes a brief daily trigger awareness practice. At the beginning of each day in the concentrated period, the chosen one does a 30-second check of the trigger environment. Is the specific type of trigger active in the current day? If the relational pressure trigger is the pattern, is there a relational pressure in the current day that could produce the same deepening of the deficit that the past trigger produced? If the assignment pressure trigger is the pattern, is there an assignment pressure in the current day that has the quality of the past trigger? The 30-second trigger awareness check does not resolve the trigger. It keeps the chosen one alert to the trigger so that the early stage response is available before the trigger has produced the same level of deepening that produced the current gap. The trigger awareness is not anxiety management. It is the specific interior alertness of the person who has identified the formation pattern of their interior deficits and who operates in that knowledge with the specific responsiveness of the experienced practitioner of the interior. Alignment work. The experienced practitioner does not hope that the triggers will not appear. They know which triggers have produced the formation pattern of their specific deficits. They watch for them with the alertness of the informed, and they respond at the first signal rather than at the crisis level. There is one more element of the foundational level that I have not yet described, the forgiveness element. The chosen one, who has been behind for an extended period and who has been managing the interior apology in the background of the interior, while operating as if the relationship with God is fully functional under the weight of the unresolved acknowledgement, needs to address the forgiveness element. Before the concentrated work of the alignment and activation levels can proceed at full depth, the forgiveness element is not about the relationship with God, requiring the chosen one to earn their way back through a period of penance. That is not the quality of the relationship. The forgiveness element is about the interior of the chosen one, requiring the honest acknowledgement of the gap before the interior can operate without the weight of the owed acknowledgement pressing against the depth of the engagement. The chosen one who attempts the concentrated alignment work while carrying the interior apology in the background is doing the work from underneath the weight of the owed acknowledgement, and the weight of the owed acknowledgement limits the depth at which the work can be done. The chosen one who works through this architecture consistently for the concentrated period before the arrival of the move will arrive at the threshold of the arrival with the interior in the specific configuration that the full reception of the full form of the move requires. The depth deficit will have been significantly reduced. The alignment drift will have been recalibrated toward the specific direction of the assignment. The listening backlog will have been largely cleared. The interior apology will have been resolved through the honest acknowledgement. The trigger pattern will have been identified, and the trigger awareness built into the daily rhythm. The vision restoration will have been in process through the quality re-encounter practice, and the neurological integration of the daily whole brain activation practice will have been building the right hemisphere function progressively back toward the level that the full reception requires. All of that together is the version of the chosen one who arrives at the threshold of the arriving move with the aligned interior, the version who receives the full form, the version who experiences the speechlessness that was prepared with the move rather than the partial reception of the person who arrived at the threshold with the gap still present. That version is available. The concentrated period is the appointed window. The architecture is the path. Let me close this section with a specific practical instruction for the chosen one who receives this message and who is ready to begin the concentrated alignment work today, not tomorrow. not when the current pressure resolves, today, because the urgency of the drop everything signal is the urgency of the appointed time. And the appointed time does not wait for the convenient window. The full concentrated work architecture, the alignment level, and the activation level built on the foundational level will be walked through in complete detail in the next section of this message. The specific practices for each level, the specific sequences, the specific way that the concentrated work produces the gap closure that the drop everything response was designed to produce, and the specific interior experience of the chosen one who arrives at the threshold of the arriving move with the alignment restored and the full depth available for the reception of what was prepared. God said, "Drop everything and watch." The dropping produces the space produces the concentrated work. The concentrated work produces the alignment. The alignment produces the full reception. The full reception produces the speechlessness, and the speechlessness is the testimony that was prepared with the move. The concentrated work begins with the written inventory. Today, before the next thing, write the inventory. 3 items: the depth, the alignment, the listening backlog. In the honest language of the direct interior experience, write it, and let the writing produce the map that the rest of the concentrated period will navigate. The message continues. The chosen one who has completed the foundational level work and who has begun the alignment level practices is ready for the 4th section of this message, which is the specific understanding of what the concentrated work produces in the interior over the course of the concentrated period, not what it produces in the visible circumstances, not what it produces in the external evidence of progress, what it produces in the interior quality of the chosen one who is doing the concentrated work consistently, because the interior quality is what the arriving move requires. The external circumstances will follow the interior quality, they always have. But the chosen one who is behind cannot track the closing of the gap by the external evidence alone, because the external evidence lags behind the interior reality. The interior quality of the closing gap is visible to the interior before it is visible in the external. And the chosen one who learns to read the interior quality of the closing gap can track the progress of the concentrated work from the inside, rather than waiting for the external evidence that will arrive later. Let me describe what the interior quality of the gap closing looks like in the sequence of its arrival, so that the chosen one who is in the concentrated period can recognize the progress as it happens, rather than only after it has happened. The first interior quality that arrives when the concentrated work begins is the specific quality of the interior lightning. It is not the relief of the external pressure resolving. The external pressure of the test season does not resolve at the beginning of the concentrated period. In fact, it often increases, because the concentrated period itself adds the demand of the daily work to the existing demands of the test season. The lightening that arrives is not the lightening of the external load. It is the lightening of the interior weight of the backlog that begins to clear as the daily foundational practices address the most urgent items of the listening backlog one by one. The interior weight of an unprocessed signal is disproportionately large relative to the size of the signal itself. The chosen one who has been managing a backlog of 7 significant unprocessed signals is carrying more interior weight than the sum of the 7 individual weights would suggest, because the interior management of the backlog requires a continuous allocation of interior resource. The resource is not used to address the items. It is used to maintain the management mode that keeps the items in the filed but not addressed state. When the items begin to be addressed, the resource that was being used for their management is released, and the release of that management resource produces the specific quality of the interior lightning that marks the beginning of the gap closing. The second interior quality that arrives is the sharpening of the signal. As the listening backlog clears, the interior noise level decreases. And, as the interior noise level decreases, the signal that God is currently sending becomes more clearly receivable, not louder, clearer. The signal was always there. It was never absent. But the interior noise of the unprocessed backlog was occupying the frequency at which the signal operates and reducing the resolution of the reception. As the backlog clears, the signal sharpens. The chosen one, who has been receiving a vague interior, knowing about the next step of the assignment, begins to receive a clearer perception of the same knowing as the backlog clearing progresses. This specific quality of signal sharpening is one of the most reliable indicators that the concentrated work is producing the gap closure it was designed to produce, not the dramatic spiritual experience, not the overwhelming encounter with the presence. The simple, measurable sharpening of the interior perception of the signal that was already there. If you are in the concentrated period and you begin to notice that the interior knowing that was vague is becoming more specific, that the direction that was blurred is becoming clearer, that the signal that was background noise is coming forward as identifiable information, that is the second interior quality of the gap closing. It is the evidence that the foundational work is producing the clearing it was designed to produce. The third interior quality that arrives, typically in the middle period of the concentrated work, is the restoration of the receiving depth. The chosen one, who has been operating from the surface of the interior for an extended period, and who has been doing the extended breath of delay practice and the alignment level recalibration practices consistently, will begin to notice that the quality of the interior in the morning before the external demands of the day activate has a different quality than it had at the beginning of the concentrated period. The morning interior quality is the most reliable measure of the receiving depth because the morning is when the interior has had the least external disruption and the receiving depth is most visible. The restoration of the receiving depth does not feel like a peak spiritual experience. It feels like the ordinary quality of the morning interior being a degree richer than it was, the receiving quality being more present than it was, the quality of the prayer being more two-directional than it was, not dramatic, measurable. And the measurable increase in the receiving depth is the specific indicator that the alignment level work is producing the recalibration toward the full alignment that the arriving move requires. The fourth interior quality that arrives, typically in the later period of the concentrated work, as the activation level practices take full effect, is the restoration of the interior vision clarity. The vision that was blurred by the test season and the accumulated deficit begins to sharpen in the same way that the individual signal sharpened. Not a new vision, the restoration of the resolution of the existing vision. The specific assignment that the calling established becomes clearer. The direction becomes more specific. The quality of the interior knowing about the next chapter of the assignment becomes more detailed and more precise. The vision clarity restoration is the interior indicator that the activation level practices are producing the depth that makes the full reception of the arriving move possible. Because the full reception of the arriving move requires the interior to be open at the level of the vision, not the level of the immediate circumstances, the level of the full assignment. And the interior that has had the vision blurred by the test season receives the arriving move at the level of the blurred vision. The interior that has had the vision clarity restored through the concentrated activation level work receives the arriving move at the level of the full vision. And the depth of the reception is proportional to the clarity of the vision at the moment of arrival. The fifth interior quality that arrives, completing the sequence of the gap closing, is the specific quality of the interior piece that is not the piece of the test being over. The test is not over during the concentrated period. The concentrated period is itself a demanding work that requires the full interior resource. but there is a specific quality of interior peace that arrives as the gap closes. Not the peace of the relief, the peace of the alignment, the peace of the interior that is positioned where it was designed to be positioned, the peace of the compass pointing in the right direction, the peace of the receiving depth being available, the peace of the vision being clear enough that the interior knows where it is in the story of the assignment and what the arriving chapter is for. That quality of interior peace is qualitatively different from the emotional state of feeling good about the spiritual life. It is the specific peace that Paul described as passing the understanding of the one who encounters it from outside. Not because it is mysterious, because the quality of it is not produced by any external circumstance. The external circumstances of the concentrated period are often the same or harder than they were before the concentrated period began. The peace comes from the interior alignment, from the closing of the gap, from the restored compass direction, from the cleared signal channel, from the receiving depth that is coming back online. Channel 1-2. That is the fifth interior quality of the gap closing. And that quality is the interior evidence that the concentrated work has reached the level that the arriving move requires for its full reception. I want to speak specifically about the timeline of the concentrated period, because the chosen one who receives the drop everything signal and who begins the concentrated work often approaches the work with an unconscious timeline that is either too short or not defined. Too short because the urgency of the drop everything signal communicates urgency, which the interior translates as the expectation that the results will arrive quickly. Not defined because the interior does not have a specific window in mind and therefore does not calibrate the consistency and the intensity of the work to a specific endpoint. Both of the timeline problems produce the same result. The chosen one begins the concentrated work with full intensity, sustains it for several days, and then begins to taper the intensity when the results do not arrive as quickly as the unconscious timeline expected. The tapering produces the loss of the compounding that the consistent work was building, and the loss of the compounding means that the concentrated work that was building toward the gap closure loses the momentum it had built and begins to reapproach the starting position. The timeline of the concentrated period is not a precise schedule. Different chosen ones close different gaps at different rates depending on the size of the gap, the depth of the deficits, and the consistency of the concentrated work. But there is a general pattern. The first interior quality, the lightning, arrives within the first 3 to 5 days of consistent foundational work. The second quality, the signal sharpening, arrives within the first week to 10 days. The third quality, the receiving depth restoration, begins to be measurable in the second week and continues to develop through the remainder of the concentrated period. The fourth quality, the vision clarity restoration, typically requires 2 to 3 weeks of consistent concentrated work to become measurable. The fifth quality, the interior peace of the alignment, arrives when the other four have progressed sufficiently to produce the cumulative effect that the peace represents. The minimum effective concentrated period is 21 days, not because 21 days is a spiritually significant number. Because 21 days of consistent concentrated work is the minimum period in which the fourth interior quality of the vision clarity restoration can become measurable. And the vision clarity restoration is the specific interior quality that makes the full reception of the arriving move possible at its full depth. The chosen one who does the concentrated work for less than 21 days may experience the first 2 or 3 interior qualities, but will not have produced the vision, clarity, restoration that the fourth quality requires. The 21-day concentrated period does not require perfection. It requires consistency. The chosen one who misses 1 day in 21 does not need to restart the 21 days from the beginning. The consistency of 20 out of 21 days produces the compounding that the concentrated period is designed to produce. The consistency of 15 out of 21 days is insufficient. The target is 20 out of 21 or better, not because the missed day is a failure. Because the compounding that produces the interior qualities requires a specific density of the consistent work to build at the rate that the concentrated period is designed to produce. The daily commitment of the 33-minute window, 8 minutes of whole brain activation practice, followed by 25 minutes of concentrated alignment work, is the specific daily investment that the 21-day concentrated period is built around. The chosen one who can commit to that 33 minutes every morning for 21 days will complete the concentrated period with the interior positioned at the level that the arriving move requires for its full reception. The 33 minutes every morning, 21 days. That is the container of the drop everything response. Let me connect the neurological dimension of the concentrated period timeline to the timeline I just described. The neural synchronization technology, developed by Dr. Daniel Barone, produces a measurable neurological shift beginning in the first week of daily use. The first week of daily 8-minute whole brain activation practice produces the initial restoration of the right hemisphere integration that makes the foundational level practices more effective. The signal sharpening quality that arrives in the first week to 10 days is partly a neurological phenomenon as well as a spiritual one. The right hemisphere signal receptivity comes online as the integration is restored, and the interior signal that was blurred by the right hemisphere suppression becomes sharper as the right hemisphere function returns. The second week of daily practice produces the measurable deepening of the right hemisphere integration that supports the alignment level recalibration work. The compass recalibration requires the pattern perception of the right hemisphere to work at full function. And the second week of daily whole brain activation practice produces the progressive deepening of the right hemisphere pattern perception that makes the compass recalibration work at the depth and the precision that the alignment restoration requires. The third week of daily practice produces the right hemisphere integration level that supports the activation level depth building. The extended breadth of delay reaches the quality of depth it was designed to reach more quickly. The vision quality re-encounter practice produces the resolution restoration more fully. The identity declaration from the new season posture lands at the depth of the interior more precisely. All three of the activation level practices are supported by the third week of neurological integration in a way that makes the fourth interior quality, the vision clarity restoration, measurable by the end of the 21-day period. The alignment of the neurological timeline of the tool practice with the interior quality timeline of the concentrated period is not accidental. Dr. Barone designed the daily 8-minute practice specifically around the clinical observation that 3 weeks of consistent daily practice produces the measurable hemispheric integration shift that corresponds to the interior. Qualities that the concentrated spiritual work of the aligned, chosen one produces, not because the spiritual and the neurological are the same thing, because they operate on the same underlying architecture of the human person. And the daily practice that supports that architecture at the neurological level amplifies the work that the spiritual practices are doing at the interior level. The access to the tool is through the description link at $39 today. The list price of $49 represents the clinical value of what Dr. Barone designed. The $39 today window is the appointed time access for the chosen ones who receive this message at the moment when the 21-day concentrated period is beginning. The 4 bonus materials that come with the access Extend the neurological support of the daily practice into the specific areas of the concentrated period work. The creativity and vision restoration bonus supports the vision clarity restoration practice. The clarity under pressure bonus supports the alignment recalibration work under the ongoing pressure of the test season. The relational depth bonus supports the relational behind dimension of the concentrated period. The decision quality bonus supports the temporal behind resolution by improving the quality of the discernment that the first small step identification requires. The 100% guarantee means that the 21-day concentrated period with the daily whole brain activation practice is available without financial risk. The neural synchronization technology produces the neurological shift, or the investment is returned. The only thing required is the 33-minute daily commitment. The tool and the guarantee are provided. The daily commitment is the chosen one contribution to the 33-minute container of the concentrated period. Not available on streaming platforms. Not available on YouTube. Not available on Spotify. Not the neural synchronization frequency layering that makes the whole brain activation work requires the full audio architecture that compressed streaming formats cannot carry. The description link is the only access that delivers the full technology. Any other version encountered anywhere other than the description link does not contain the neural synchronization technology in the form that Dr. Barone designed. Use the description link. The link is in the description of this message. Let me now describe the activation level practices in the specific detail that the chosen one who is building the 25-minute concentrated work session needs in order to use the last 7 minutes of the session for the take. Activation work. The final 7 minutes of the 25-minute concentrated work session are divided into 3 segments. 2 minutes for the extended breath of delay, 2 minutes for the compass recalibration, 3 minutes for the identity declaration from the new season posture. These 3 segments together constitute the activation level practice for the day. They are done in sequence, in the same order each day. The order matters because each segment builds on the one before it. The extended breath of delay settles the interior to the depth from which the compass recalibration can be done accurately. The compass recalibration produces the specific interior orientation from which the identity declaration is spoken with the full precision of the assigned direction. The sequence is not arbitrary. It is the specific architecture that produces the activation level result. The 2-minute extended breath of delay begins immediately after the alignment level work ends. The chosen one sits in stillness with the eyes closed and the physical posture settled, and allows the interior to move from the active processing mode of the alignment level work into the receptive stillness of the breath of delay. The breath of delay is not controlled breathing in the physiological sense. It is the interior orientation of the receiving posture. The specific quality of the interior that holds without grasping, that waits without pressing, that is present without anticipating. The 2-minute compass recalibration that follows the breath of delay has a specific structure. The chosen one asks the interior a single question from inside the depth of the breath of delay stillness. The question is this: what does the interior compass know about the direction of the assignment right now? Not what the analysis of the situation says the direction should be. What the interior compass knows. The interior knows the direction of the assignment at a level that the analytical left hemisphere cannot access directly. The right hemisphere, at the level of integration that the preceding 20 minutes of concentrated work and the whole brain activation practice have produced, perceives the direction of the assignment as a whole pattern knowing rather than a step-by-step analysis. The question opens the interior to that whole pattern knowing, and the 2 minutes of sitting with the question without pressing toward a verbal answer, allows the compass direction to surface as an interior knowing rather than an analytical conclusion. The chosen one does not need to articulate the compass direction verbally at the end of the 2 minutes. They need to register it as an interior knowing. The quality of the interior, after the compass recalibration segment, is a specific quality of directional orientation, not a conclusion about what to do, a quality of knowing which way is the right way. The compass has been recalibrated. The interior knows the direction. The day can proceed from that knowing. The 3-minute identity declaration is the culminating segment of the activation level work and of the entire 25-minute concentrated work session. It is spoken from the full depth of the interior that the preceding 22 minutes of concentrated work and the 8 minutes of whole brain activation practice have produced, not from the verbal mind that is performing the declaration. From the specific depth of the receiving interior that the breadth of delay and the compass recalibration have arrived at. The structure of the new season identity declaration for the concentrated period has 5 elements. Each element is a single sentence, 5 sentences total, each spoken slowly, with the full interior presence behind each word in the stillness of the receiving posture. The 5-sentence declaration takes between 90 seconds and 2 minutes to speak with the full interior presence. The remaining time of the 3-minute segment is held in the stillness that follows the declaration, the quiet seal, before the session ends and the day begins. The first sentence is the acknowledgement sentence. It names the test and acknowledges the formation it produced. The format is this: I have been through the test of the specific period of formation, and I carry in my interior the specific quality of what the test built. The second sentence is the formation sentence. It names the specific interior qualities that the test produced. The format is this: the test built in me, the specific quality 1, the specific quality 2, and the specific quality 3. 3 qualities, specific to the specific interior of the specific chosen one who speaks the declaration, not generic spiritual qualities. The exact qualities that the inventory of the concentrated period revealed as the specific formation of this specific test for this specific person. The third sentence is the receiving sentence. It orients the interior to the posture of receiving the arriving move rather than pressing toward it. The format is this: I am not pressing toward the move. I am receiving it as it arrives. From the full depth of what the test built in my interior, the fourth sentence is the alignment sentence. It declares the specific interior alignment that the compass recalibration of the activation segment produced. The format is this: my interior is oriented in the direction of the specific assignment, and the arriving move is aligning with that direction in the appointed time. The fifth sentence is the readiness sentence. The format is this: I am ready for everything that was prepared with this move, and I will testify when the arrival has produced the full testimony that was prepared alongside it. These 5 sentences, spoken from the full interior presence of the 20-minute preparation that preceded them, carry the specific weight of the interior that produced them, not the weight of the performance of spiritual declarations, the weight of the interior that has been through the test, that has done the concentrated work, that has been recalibrated by the alignment practices, and that is now speaking from the depth of the receiving posture, rather than from the surface of the verbal aspiration. The chosen one who speaks these 5 sentences every morning for the 21-day concentrated period will find that the sentences change slightly as the concentrated period progresses. Not because the format changes, because the interior that speaks them changes. The formation sentence in the first week names the qualities in the language of the surface of the interior. The formation sentence in the third week names the qualities in the language of the depth that the concentrated work has been accessing progressively. The sentences become more specific, more precise, more grounded in the actual interior experience of the formation as the concentrated period deepens the access to the depth of the interior. That progression in the quality of the declaration is itself one of the interior indicators of the gap closing. The chosen one, who can hear the difference between the declaration of the first week and the declaration of the third week, who can feel the difference in the depth from which the same sentences are being spoken, is tracking the interior progress of the concentrated work from the most reliable indicator available, not the external circumstances, not the visible evidence of progress in the assignment, the quality of the depth from which the morning declaration is spoken. When the depth from which the declaration is spoken in the third week is measurably different from the depth from which it was spoken in the first week, the concentrated work has been producing the interior restoration it was designed to produce. The full 21-day concentrated period, done with the consistency of 20 out of 21 days, with the 8-minute daily whole brain activation practice preceding the 25-minute concentrated work session, is the complete drop. Everything response to the danger level interior behind that this message was designed to address, not a general improvement program. The specific concentrated response to the specific signal. God said, drop everything and watch. The container of the watching is the 21-day concentrated period. The architecture of the watching is the 3-level concentrated work, and the neurological support of the watching is the daily 8-minute whole brain activation practice. There is one more specific instruction I want to give before this section of the message closes. The chosen one who is beginning the 21-day concentrated period needs to make one specific commitment at the beginning of the period that will protect the consistency of the 20 days required. The commitment is the identification and the holding of the specific time, not a vague commitment to doing the concentrated work every morning. The specific identification of the time in the morning, the specific window, 6 in the morning, 6:30, 7, whatever the specific window is, in the specific rhythm of the specific chosen one, and the specific commitment to holding that window against the competing demands of the morning for the 21-day period. Not forever, for 21 days. The protection of the specific window for 21 days is the single most important structural decision of the concentrated period. Because the concentrated period compounds when it is consistent, and it dissipates when it is inconsistent, and the consistency requires the protected window. The access at $39 today through the description link is the first act of the protected window commitment. The access is the provision of the 8-minute neurological preparation for the concentrated work. The commitment to use it daily is the protection of the window. The two together, the tool and the commitment, form the concentrated period container that the drop everything response was designed to produce. This section of the message has described the interior qualities of the gap closing and the neurological timeline that supports the concentrated period. The next section will describe the specific practices of the activation level in the detail that allows the chosen one who is in the concentrated period to know exactly what to do in the last 7 minutes of the 25-minute concentrated work session each morning. The specific breadth of delay extension, the specific compass recalibration practice, the specific identity declaration structure, and the specific way that the full 21-day practice produces the interior configuration that the arriving move requires for the full reception. The message continues. The fifth section of this message is the section that brings together everything that was built in the first 4 sections and connects it to the specific tool that was prepared for this specific junction of the chosen one who received the dub I. Drop everything signal and who is responding to it. We have described the nature of the dangerous behind, the 3 deficits, the 5 signs, the interior qualities of the gap closing, the 21-day concentrated period, the 33-minute daily window, the 3-level architecture of the concentrated work. Now, I want to bring all of that together with the specific neurological understanding that explains why the tool works, and the specific clinical evidence of what it produces in the lives of chosen ones who are in the same place you are in right now. Let me start with the foundational science. In 1981, Dr. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine for his research into the split brain, the specific nature of the hemispheric division in the human brain. Dr. Sperry documented that the 2 hemispheres of the brain are not simply 2 halves of one unified processing system. They are 2 distinct modes of processing reality that, in the fully integrated brain, work together to produce a quality of cognition and perception that neither can produce alone. The left hemisphere is the sequential mode. It processes reality in linear time, analyzing parts, constructing logical chains, managing language, building plans, and operating in the domain of what has already been defined and categorized. The test season activates the left hemisphere at maximum capacity. The demands of the test, the analysis of the situation, the planning of the response, the management of the resources, the navigation of the resistance, all of those require the left hemisphere at full engagement for extended periods. And the left hemisphere, when it operates at full engagement for extended periods, does not simply dominate for the duration of the demand. It entrenches. The neural pathways of the left hemisphere processing mode are strengthened by extended use, in the same way that any neural pathway is strengthened by use. The test season builds the left hemisphere into the dominant mode, not just for the duration of the test, but as the resting architecture of the brain by the time the test season has run its full course. The right hemisphere is the whole pattern mode. It processes reality holistically, perceiving complete patterns before the analysis of the parts is complete, comprehending the whole scene simultaneously rather than building it sequentially, operating in the language of image and metaphor, and direct knowing rather than the language of logic and language. The right hemisphere is the specific mode that the concentrated alignment work requires. Signal reception, depth perception, compass direction knowing, vision clarity, identity recognition, all of that is right hemisphere function. And the right hemisphere that was suppressed by the extended left hemisphere dominance of the test season does not automatically restore to full function just because the external demands that produced the dominance have decreased. Dr. Daniel Barone, a neurologist practicing in New York City, spent 2 decades working clinically with patients whose right hemisphere function had been suppressed by sustained stress, extended high-demand periods, and the accumulated cognitive load of the high-performance professional and entrepreneurial environments that produce the specific neurological pattern that the test season produces. Dr. Barone observed that the suppression of the right hemisphere function produced a specific and consistent cluster of cognitive and interior symptoms: the reduced creative synthesis, the blurred pattern perception, the difficulty with deep interior receptivity, the loss of the quality of the morning clarity that the integrated brain produces, the inability to access the whole pattern knowing that the right hemisphere provides when the integration is at full function. Dr. Barone also observed that the standard approaches to cognitive restoration, rest, general wellness practices, and meditation practices produced partial restoration of the right hemisphere function, but did not consistently produce the full restoration of the hemispheric integration that the suppressed right hemisphere required. The partial restoration was not sufficient for the interior qualities that the fully integrated brain produces, the qualities that the concentrated alignment work of the chosen one, who is behind, requires in order to proceed at full depth. What Dr. Barone developed over 2 decades of clinical research and practice was the neural synchronization technology that he built into the whole brain activation practice of the genius switch. The neural synchronization technology uses a specific frequency architecture that, when delivered through high-quality audio in the 8-minute daily practice, produces a measurable entrainment of the left and right hemispheres toward the coherent, synchronized state. That is the neurological expression of full hemispheric integration. Not through effort, not through technique, through the specific frequency layering that the brain responds to by moving toward the synchronized state. The entrainment effect of the neural synchronization technology is the specific mechanism that produces the neurological restoration that supports the concentrated alignment work. The brain in the entrained state does not require as much effort to access the right hemisphere function that the alignment work requires. The depth perception is more available. The signal reception is more sensitive. The compass knowing is more accessible. The vision clarity is more consistent. All of the right hemisphere functions that the concentrated alignment work operates through are amplified when the brain is in the entrained state that the daily whole brain activation practice produces. The 8 minutes of the daily whole brain activation practice do not produce a permanent entrained state. They produce a progressive neurological restoration, session by session, over the 21-day concentrated period that moves the resting baseline of the brain hemispheric balance toward the integrated state. The first session produces a temporary entrained state that lasts for a period following the session. The second session builds on the first. The third builds on the second. Over 21 days of consistent daily sessions, the progressive accumulation of the entrained state builds the integrated mode into the resting architecture of the brain, not fully in 21 days, but measurably, significantly, enough to produce the interior qualities of the gap closing that the concentrated period was designed to produce. This is the scientific foundation of why the 33-minute daily window produces the interior restoration that the 25 minutes of concentrated work alone would not produce at the same rate. The 8 minutes of neural synchronization preparation amplifies the effectiveness of the 25 minutes of concentrated work by bringing the brain into the state that makes the concentrated work accessible at its full depth. The 8 minutes are not optional in the architecture of the concentrated period. They are the neurological preparation without which the concentrated work operates at partial depth rather than full depth. Let me tell you what 3 specific chosen ones experienced when they combined the 21-day concentrated period with the daily whole brain activation practice of the genius switch. A woman from San Diego is a registered nurse. She had been in a prolonged test season that had produced all 3 deficits of the dangerous behind in significant measure. The depth deficit was severe. Her depth practices had been compressed to near zero by the demands of her work and family situation. The alignment drift was significant. She had not done a compass recalibration in many months. The listening backlog was large. She estimated 15 to 20 significant signals that had been filed without processing over the 18 months of the test season. Lisa completed the 21-day concentrated period with the daily whole brain activation practice preceding the concentrated work. In the first week, she noticed the first interior quality of the gap closing, the lightening. The weight of the morning interior decreased measurably. By the end of the second week, she noticed the second quality, the signal sharpening. The interior signals that had been vague became more specific. One specific signal that had been filed for 11 months came forward with a clarity that allowed the response that the signal had always been calling for. By the end of the third week, she noticed the third and fourth qualities simultaneously. The receiving depth had restored to a level she had not experienced in over a year, and the vision clarity had increased to the point where the direction of her assignment was more specific than it had been since before the test season began. A man from Houston is a business owner. His primary deficit was the vision behind, the blurring of the interior vision of the assignment that the creative suppression of the test season produced. He had been producing competent work throughout the test season, but the work felt disconnected from the depth of the assignment that he knew was available. The right hemisphere creative synthesis that the integrated brain produces had been suppressed to the point where his work, while technically good, lacked the quality of the deep creative contribution that the assignment of his life required. Matthew completed the 21-day concentrated period. He described the turning point as coming in the middle of the third week. He was doing the morning activation level work, the extended breath of delay, followed by the compass recalibration, when a specific whole pattern perception arrived in his interior that he described as seeing the full shape of the assignment for the first time in over a year, not a piece of it. The full shape simultaneously. The right hemisphere at full integration had produced the whole pattern perception that the left hemisphere dominant brain had been incapable of producing. The creative synthesis that followed in the days after that perception produced work that he described as the first work of the new season, the work that came from the depth rather than from the surface, the work that carried the quality of the contribution that the assignment had always been building toward. A woman from Manhattan. Her story involves a dimension of the dangerous behind that this message has touched on but not fully described. The generational behind. Ellie had recognized in her own life a pattern that had been present in her family for multiple generations. A pattern of arriving at the threshold of the full expression of the assignment and then pulling back at the critical moment, not from lack of ability. From a specific interior response that had been carried down the family line and that Ellie had been unable to fully identify from inside the left hemisphere dominant brain that the test season had produced. The whole brain activation practice over the 21-day concentrated period restored the right hemisphere pattern perception that allowed Ellie to see the full shape of the generational pattern in a way that the left hemisphere analysis had been unable to produce. She saw it simultaneously, the full pattern across 3 generations, in a single right hemisphere whole pattern perception during the third week of the concentrated period. And from that whole pattern perception came the specific interior knowing of the act of declaration that would break the pattern in her family line, an act that she took with a specificity and a confidence that she described as only possible because the right hemisphere perception had shown her the full shape of what she was dealing with, rather than the piece-by-piece analysis that had produced only confusion before the restoration. These 3 testimonials are not presented as guarantees of what the 21-day concentrated period will produce in every chosen one who undertakes it. They are presented as the evidence of the interior qualities of the gap closing that the specific combination of the concentrated alignment work and the daily whole brain activation practice produces in the chosen ones who complete the qualities. 21 days with the consistency that the concentrated period requires. The Genius Switch by Dr. Daniel Barone is available through the link in the description of this message. The access today is $39, down from the list price of $49. That access includes the full whole brain activation practice and the 4 bonus materials. The 100% money-back guarantee means that the 21-day investment is available with no financial risk. The guarantee covers the full access, not a prorated return. If the daily 8-minute practice does not produce the neurological shift that Dr. Barone designed it to produce, the full $39 is returned. The genius switch is not for everyone. It is for the chosen one who received the drop-everything signal and who knows, in the interior that receives clearly when the listening channel is clear, that the signal is real. For the one who has been in the test season long enough to accumulate the gap and who is ready to close it with the full commitment that the concentrated period requires, for the one who understands that the neurological restoration and the interior formation belong together in the full resource of the arriving season. If that is you, what is described here was prepared for this exact junction, and the access is available now. The price architecture of the access is designed around the reality that the tool is not a premium product for the chosen ones who are already at alignment level. It is a clinical tool for the chosen ones who are behind and who need the neurological restoration that the concentrated period requires. The $39 access point is the price that makes the tool accessible to the chosen one who is in the test season and who does not have the financial bandwidth of the person who is in the full expression of the new season. Assignment. The list price of $49 anchors the value at a fraction of the $500 value that the combination of the core practice and the 4 bonus materials represents in terms of the clinical design and the neurological restoration they produce together. The 4 bonus materials are the creativity restoration practice, the clarity under pressure practice, the relational depth practice, and the decision quality practice. Each bonus material is a standalone 8-minute practice that extends the neural synchronization effect of the core whole brain activation into the specific area of the concentrated period work that it is designed to support. The creativity restoration practice supports the vision clarity restoration. The clarity under pressure practice supports the alignment recalibration under the ongoing demands of the test season. The relational depth practice supports the relational behind resolution. The decision quality practice supports the temporal behind resolution through the first small step identification for each deferred item. Together, the core practice and the 4 bonus materials form a complete neurological support system for every dimension of the 21-day concentrated period, not a general cognitive improvement program. The specific clinical design of a neurologist who spent 2 decades working with the specific neurological pattern that the test season produces and developing the specific practice architecture that addresses that pattern with the consistency and the precision that the full restoration requires. The Genius Switch is not available on YouTube, on Spotify, or on any streaming audio platform. The neural synchronization frequency architecture requires the full, uncompressed audio format that streaming platforms cannot deliver. The specific frequency layering that produces the entrainment effect does not survive the compression algorithms of the streaming formats. What is available on any platform other than the description link is not the version that produces the neurological shift that Dr. Barone designed. The description link is the only access. The description link is in the description of this message. Use it. The chosen one who has been behind, who has received the drop-everything signal, who has recognized the 5 signs and identified the primary deficit and understood the 21-day concentrated period architecture, now has everything they need to begin the concentrated response. The tool is available. The architecture is described. The timeline is clear. The interior qualities of the progress are identifiable. The neurological support is accessible. The only remaining element is the commitment to begin. There is a specific quality of the interior that the chosen one who has been behind for an extended period carries into the beginning of the concentrated period that I want to address directly. It is the quality of the half-belief not the full unbelief that says the gap cannot be closed, not the full belief that says the gap will be closed with absolute certainty, the half-belief. The interior state of the chosen one who knows intellectually that the gap is closable, but who does not yet feel, in the full depth of the interior, the certainty of the closing. The half-belief is not a failure of faith. It is the honest interior state of the person who has been managing the gap for so long that the management has become the normal interior relationship with the gap. The management mode does not produce the certainty of the closing. It produces the ongoing low-grade expectation that the gap will persist indefinitely because the management mode has not yet produced the closing, and there is no internal evidence of the closing having begun. The concentrated period breaks the management mode. It does this not by producing certainty through argument or encouragement, but by producing evidence. The first interior quality of the gap closing, the lightning, is the first piece of evidence that the concentrated period produces. The lightning is not imagined. It is not a result of motivation or positive thinking. It is the measurable decrease of the interior weight that the backlog management was producing. And the measurable decrease of the weight is the interior evidence that changes the half-belief into the beginning of the certain belief. Not because someone told the chosen one the gap was closing, because the interior of the chosen one detected the closing and reported it to the conscious attention through the quality of the morning interior. The half-belief is transformed by evidence, not by argument, not by encouragement, by the actual interior evidence of the gap closing. And the concentrated period, done with the consistency and the architecture that this message has described, produces that evidence beginning in the first week. The chosen one who begins the concentrated period in the half-belief state does not need to wait for the full certainty before beginning. The beginning produces the evidence produces the certainty produces the full depth of the concentrated work that the gap requires. The sequence is not belief first, then evidence. It is beginning first, then evidence, then certainty, then full depth. The beginning is the act that initiates the sequence. Let me speak to one more dimension of the neurological restoration that the whole brain activation practice produces, that is specifically relevant to the chosen one who is in the half-belief state. The half-belief is not just a spiritual state, it is a neurological state. The left hemisphere dominant brain that the test season produced is specifically the brain architecture that generates the half-belief interior. The left hemisphere processes the gap through analysis. It calculates the size of the gap against the available resource and the available time. It applies the logic of the gap history to the probability of the gap closing. And the analysis of the gap through the left hemisphere lens, given the history of the management mode and the size of the accumulated deficit, consistently produces the same result. The partial probability, the half-belief, the right hemisphere, at full integration, does not process the gap through analysis. It perceives the whole pattern. And the whole pattern of the story of the chosen one who is at the threshold of the new season, when perceived through the right hemisphere at full integration rather than analyzed through the left hemisphere dominant brain, includes the full shape of the formation and the full direction of the assignment and the full quality of the arriving move. That full pattern perception is what produces the certainty rather than the probability assessment, not the certainty of the naive who has not accounted for the size of the gap. The certainty of the whole pattern perceiver who sees the full shape of the story rather than the linear calculation of the current circumstance. The daily whole brain activation practice of the genius switch progressively restores the right hemisphere pattern perception. And as the right hemisphere pattern perception is progressively restored over the 21-day concentrated period, the half-belief progressively transforms into the certainty of the whole pattern seeing, not because the gap disappeared, Because the interior that was only able to see the gap through the left hemisphere analysis is progressively recovering the right hemisphere whole pattern perception that sees the full shape of the story the gap is part of. And the full shape of the story, when it is perceived clearly, includes the closure of the gap as a feature of the story rather than an uncertain outcome of the management mode. This specific neurological mechanism is the reason that Dr. Barone describes the tool as a restoration of the genius rather than a general cognitive enhancement. The genius is not the elevated intelligence of the left hemisphere analysis. The genius is the full integration of both hemispheres, the capacity to simultaneously analyze the parts and perceive the whole, to simultaneously plan the steps and see the full destination, to simultaneously manage the current circumstances and receive the whole pattern knowing of where the full story is going. That is the genius that the test season suppressed. And that is the genius that the daily 8-minute practice restores. The chosen one who is dangerously behind is the chosen one who lost access to the genius at the point in the test season when the left hemisphere dominance became entrenched, not permanently. The genius is restorable. The neural synchronization technology restores it. The 8 minutes every day. The 21-day concentrated period. The $39 access point with the 4 bonus materials and the 100% guarantee. The description link is the only access that delivers the full neural synchronization technology in the form that produces the restoration, not the streaming platforms. The description link. The chosen one who completes the 21-day concentrated period with the daily whole brain activation practice arrives at the end of the period with the genius restored to a measurably higher level than it was at the beginning. Not fully restored in 21 days, measurably higher. And measurably higher is the level that the arriving move requires for the full reception that the interior behind was preventing. The full restoration continues beyond the 21-day concentrated period in the ongoing daily practice that the new season supports. But the 21-day period produces the specific level of restoration that moves the interior from the dangerous behind state to the threshold of the full reception. That is the specific claim of the clinical design. That is what the testimony of these 3 chosen ones represents. And that is what the 100% guarantee stands behind. I want to speak briefly about what happens on the other side of the 21-day concentrated period. Because the chosen one who receives this message and who is motivated by the urgency of the drop everything signal may have the unconscious expectation that the 21-day period is the end point rather than a threshold. The concentrated period is not the end point. It is the specific threshold that the gap requires before the arriving move can be received at the depth it was prepared to reach. The arriving move itself, the specific move that God is making in the life of the chosen one who received the drop everything signal, arrives on the timeline of the appointed time, regardless of the gap. But the depth of the reception of the arriving move is determined by the interior alignment that is in place at the moment of arrival. The 21-day concentrated period closes the gap to the level that the full reception requires. What happens after the 21-day period is the new season, the season of the assignment being lived rather than anticipated, the season of the contribution rather than the formation, the season of the full expression of what was built through the test rather than the compressed expression of the person who was still managing the gap. The new season is what all of the concentrated period work is building toward. And the new season, entered from the aligned interior of the concentrated period completion, is qualitatively different from the new season entered from the interior of the management mode. The daily 8-minute whole brain activation practice continues in the new season, not as the preparation for the concentrated work, as the neurological maintenance of the integrated state that the concentrated period built. 8 minutes every day in the new season maintains the right hemisphere integration at the level the concentrated period restored and progressively deepens it over time. The genius that was restored through the 21-day concentrated period deepens through the ongoing daily practice into the full expression of the integrated mind that the assignment of the new season requires. The 4 bonus materials of the access through the description link support the ongoing daily practice of the new season. The creativity restoration practice supports the full expression of the creative contribution of the assignment. The clarity under pressure practice supports the aligned decision-making that the new season requires when the assignment produces its own pressures and challenges. The relational depth practice supports the relational dimension of the assignment, the specific connections and collaborations that the new season requires. The decision quality practice supports the ongoing discernment that the full expression of the assignment demands. All 4 bonuses, together with the core practice, form the complete neurological support system for the full expression of the new season assignment. The $39 access through the description link today is the same access that was available at the beginning of this message. It has not changed. The list price of $49 remains the standard access. The $39 today window is the appointed time access for the chosen ones who receive this message and who recognize in themselves the chosen one who is behind and who needs to begin the concentrated period now. The window is not permanent. The $39 access is available while the window is open. The description link is where the access is. The 100% guarantee covers the full $39 with no partial refund and no time limit on the return. If the daily 8-minute practice does not produce the neurological restoration that Dr. Barone designed it to produce, the full investment is returned. The guarantee is the clinical confidence of a neurologist who spent 2 decades observing what the practice produces in the people who make the daily commitment. It is not a marketing phrase. It is the statement of a practitioner who knows what the practice does and who stands behind the result it produces. Begin today, not tomorrow, not when the current pressure resolves, not when the circumstances align more favorably. Today. Because the urgency of the drop everything signal is the urgency of the appointed time that is arriving toward the chosen one who is behind. The appointed time does not wait for the convenient window. It arrives on its own timeline. And the chosen one who begins the concentrated period today has 21 days to close the gap before the arrival. The chosen one who begins tomorrow has 1 fewer day. The math of the appointed time is the math of the urgency. God said, drop everything and watch. The dropping is the decision to begin. The watching is the 21-day concentrated period. The link is in the description, and the arrival is coming. The message continues. The tool does not replace the spiritual formation. The tool does not replace the interior practices of the depth development or the alignment recalibration. It does not close the gap for you. What it does is restore the neurological state that makes the interior work accessible at the depth the gap requires, rather than the reduced depth that the suppressed brain state produces. The formation and the neurological function working together, neither replacing the other. This is the 6th and final section of this message, the section that was prepared from the beginning as the destination of the interior experience that the full message was designed to produce. Not a summary of what was taught, not a recap of the architecture of the concentrated period, an actual interior arrival at the configuration that the full message was moving the chosen one toward. What was described in the first 5 sections of this message is the map, the nature of the dangerous behind, the 3 deficits, the 5 signs, the interior qualities of the gap closing. The 21-day concentrated period architecture, the neurological science, and the specific tool that supports the architecture, the testimonials of the chosen ones who completed the period and received the gap closure. All of that is the map. And maps have a purpose. The purpose of a map is to bring the person who holds it to the destination. The destination of this message is not more information about the gap or the gap closing. The destination is the specific interior alignment that positions the chosen one at the threshold of the arriving move in the receiving posture that the full reception requires. This final section has the same 4 movements as the sacred closing of the Chashak message: the grateful pause, the release act, the declaration peak, the quiet seal. But the quality of those 4 movements in the context of the drop everything message is different from their quality in the context of the Chashak message. The Chashak message arrived at the sacred closing from the posture of the one who had been holding the promise and who was releasing the pressing posture into the receiving posture. The drop everything message arrives at the sacred closing from the posture of the one who has been behind and who is now standing at the beginning of the concentrated period with the full interior available for the response that the drop everything signal has been calling for. The grateful pause of the drop everything sacred closing is the gratitude of the one who was behind and who received the specific message that named the gap and described the path and provided the tool and clarified the timeline, produced the interior recognition of the gap in the specific form that the concentrated response requires. The gratitude is not the gratitude of the person whose gap has already been closed. The gratitude is the gratitude of the person who can see the path clearly for the first time and who receives the clarity of the path as the provision of the God who sent the drop everything signal in the first place. Right now, in this specific moment, locate the specific thing about this message that produced the interior recognition that I described at the beginning of this section, not the map in general. The specific thing that named the gap in the most accurate terms, the specific section of the message that pointed most directly at the specific dimension of the behind that is most real in your interior right now. The depth deficit, the alignment drift, the listening backlog, the half-belief, the interior apology, the generational pattern, the vision blurring. Whichever specific thing was named most accurately by this message, hold it in the full attention of the interior for a moment and let the gratitude of the arrival settle in. The gratitude of being found by the message that named the specific thing that needed to be named. The gratitude of receiving the map at the moment when the map was most needed. That specific gratitude is not a performance of spiritual thankfulness. It is the honest interior recognition that what just happened in this message was intentional, prepared, timed. The God who placed this message in your path today did not do so randomly. He did so because the map was needed at this specific moment, and because the appointed time for the receiving of the map and the beginning of the concentrated response is now. Hold the gratitude of that recognition. Let it settle from the surface of the emotional response into the depth of the interior acknowledgement. Let it move from the momentary feeling of gratitude into the stable quality of the acknowledged receipt of what was prepared. The receipt of the map, the receipt of the path, the receipt of the tool, the receipt of the clarity of the timeline. All of it prepared and delivered at the moment when the interior was ready to receive it and when the gap had reached the level that the drop everything signal was identifying. The grateful pause completes when the interior shifts from the surface of the emotional gratitude to the depth of the acknowledged receipt, when the gratitude stops being about the message and starts being about the God who prepared the message for this specific moment in the specific life of the specific chosen one who is receiving it right now. That shift is the completion of the grateful pause, and It is the foundation from which the release act proceeds. The gratitude of the arrival that I just described is not a momentary emotional state. It is an interior orientation that, when it is fully established, changes the quality of everything that follows in the concentrated period. The chosen one who enters the 21-day concentrated period from the posture of the gratitude of the arrival rather than from the posture of the urgency of the obligation, does the concentrated work from a qualitatively different interior space, not more intense, more open. The urgency of the obligation produces a clenched quality of the interior that presses toward the gap closure, as if the gap closure is an achievement to be earned. The gratitude of the arrival produces an open quality of the interior that receives the gap closure as the specific provision that was prepared for this specific moment. The open interior is the interior that the concentrated work can reach at full depth. The clenched interior is the interior that the concentrated work can only reach at the depth of the surface. This is why the grateful pause comes first in the sequence of the sacred closing, not as a courtesy, as the specific interior opening that the release act and the declaration peak require in order to proceed at the depth that the gap closure needs. You cannot release from the management posture while the interior is clenched with the urgency of the obligation. The clenching is itself a form of the management posture. The grateful pause releases the clenching, and the release of the clenching is the opening that makes the release of the management posture possible. Let me speak to the specific quality of the gratitude that is available to the chosen one who is behind, because the gratitude of the one who is behind has a different texture than the gratitude of the one who is at alignment level. The one at alignment level is grateful for the fullness of the arriving. The one who is behind is grateful for the specific provision that meets them exactly where they are. The map that was prepared for the gap rather than for the person who never had the gap. The tool that was prepared for the neurological suppression of the test season. The message that named the gap in the specific terms that the interior needed in order to receive the accurate assessment without the weight of the unacknowledged O. That specific quality of gratitude, the gratitude of being met exactly where you are, by a provision that was prepared for exactly the place you are in, is a deep and particular form of the receiving posture. It is the gratitude that says, God knows where I am. Not in the general theological sense, in the specific experiential sense. God knows the size of my gap. God knows which deficit is the primary driver. God knows the quality of my morning interior. God knows the number of unprocessed signals in my listening backlog. God knows the specific trigger that built the gap. And God prepared the specific provision for exactly that gap and sent it to find me at exactly this moment. That knowing, received in the full depth of the interior, is the grateful pause that opens the interior for everything that follows. There is a dimension of the grateful pause that belongs specifically to the chosen one who has been receiving the drop everything signal for multiple seasons and who had normalized the awareness of the gap to the point where the signal lost its urgency. For that specific chosen one, the gratitude has an additional layer, the gratitude of the recalibrated alarm, the gratitude of the message that found a way through the normalization and landed at the depth of the interior that the management mode had been protecting from the full weight of the signal. The gratitude of the interior that was reached rather than the gratitude of the interior that was merely touched. The chosen one who has been behind for multiple seasons and who recognizes in this message the specific quality of the interior recognition that I described at the beginning of this section, knows the texture of this gratitude. It is the gratitude of the person who was managing a situation they had privately acknowledged was beyond their management capacity and who received, at the moment when the management was becoming unsustainable, the specific provision that made the honest response possible. The provision of the map, the provision of the path, the provision of the tool, The provision of the timeline. The provision of the clarity that the management mode was preventing by keeping the full weight of the gap just below the threshold of the full acknowledgement. Hold that specific gratitude. Let it be fully present in the interior. Let it include the specific relief of the provision arriving at the moment when the management was becoming unsustainable. Let it include the specific acknowledgement that the God who sent the drop everything signal also prepared the provision for the concentrated response to the drop everything signal, that the urgency and the path of the urgent response were prepared together, that the drop everything signal was not the identification of the problem without the solution. It was the identification of the problem and the solution simultaneously, delivered to the interior of the chosen one at the moment when the interior was ready to receive both. The provision and the urgency together are the evidence that the drop everything signal is not a judgment, it is a preparation. The preparation of the chosen one for the receiving of the arriving move at the full depth that the move was prepared for. The gap is not the evidence that the chosen one failed. The gap is the evidence of the honest conditions of the test season and the specific interior state that the test season produced. The drop everything signal is not the response to the failure. It is the provision of the path through the specific conditions to the specific threshold that the full reception requires. That is what the grateful pause is holding, not the gratitude for the generic goodness of God. The gratitude for the specific provision that met the specific gap with the specific path and the specific tool and the specific timeline, right now, at the appointed moment. The release act of the drop, everything sacred closing, is specific to the chosen one who has been behind. What needs to be released is not the pressing posture of the Chashak message. What needs to be released is the management posture. The specific interior posture of the one who has been managing the gap rather than closing it, the posture that processes the gap through the left hemisphere analysis and produces the probability assessment and the partial commitment and the management of the symptoms rather than the concentrated response to the underlying deficit. The management posture is familiar. It has been the interior default for the duration of the period in which the gap has been present. It has a specific quality of interior comfort in its familiarity. Not the comfort of the satisfying resolution, but the comfort of the known routine. The known routine of filing the signals, noting the alignment drift, acknowledging the depth deficit, registering the vision blurring, and then returning to the daily demands without the full weight of the response those registrations call for. The management posture is comfortable in the way that all known routines are comfortable, and the releasing of the management posture is uncomfortable in the way that releasing any known routine is uncomfortable. Not painful, uncomfortable, because what replaces it is the full weight of the concentrated response that the drop everything signal was designed to produce. The release of the management posture is the specific interior act of this moment, not tomorrow, not when the circumstances produce more bandwidth. Right now, in this specific moment, let the management posture go. Let the interior hands release the filing mode and the symptom management and the probability assessment and the partial commitment. Let all of that go, not because those things were wrong. They were the faithfulness of the person who was doing what was available with what was available, but they are the faithfulness of the test season management mode. And the test season management mode is not the posture of the concentrated response. The concentrated response requires the full release of the management posture and the full assumption of the posture of the one who is going to close the gap rather than manage it. Release the management posture. Let the interior shift from the familiar comfort of the managed gap into the specific quality of the interior that is ready to begin the concentrated period. The quality of the interior that has received the map, that knows the architecture, that has the tool, that has identified the timeline, that knows which deficit is the primary driver, That is positioned at the threshold of the beginning rather than at the familiar comfort of the management mode. That is the posture of the release act. The posture of the one who dropped everything and is watching from the full interior depth of the one who is ready to begin. The declaration peak of this message is the declaration of the drop everything response, spoken from the full depth of the interior that the gratitude and the release have made available. Not as a performance, as the genuine alignment of the interior with the posture of the chosen one who received the drop everything signal, identified the gap, understood the architecture of the concentrated response, accessed the neurological tool that supports the response, and is now standing at the threshold of the beginning with the full interior weight of the response available. Speak this declaration from the depth of that specific interior. I received the drop everything signal. I heard it clearly. I named the gap honestly. I identified the primary deficit. I know the architecture of the concentrated response. I have the tool that supports the neurological dimension of the work. I release the management posture of the test season. I assume the concentrated response posture of the beginning. I commit to the 21-day period with the consistency of 20 days or better. I commit to the 33-minute daily window. I commit to the full interior resource being applied to the closing of the gap rather than the management of the gap. I am ready for the gap to close. I am ready for the arrival of the move in the aligned interior of the chosen one who completed the concentrated response. And I will testify when the arrival has produced the testimony that was prepared with it. Chosen one. That declaration carries the weight of the full interior from which it came. Whatever the surface of your life looks like in this moment, in the interior, you just made the specific alignment that transforms the management mode into the concentrated response. That alignment is real. It is the interior event that the drop everything signal was designed to produce. And the interior event that the drop everything signal was designed to produce is the beginning of the closing of the gap that was making the reception of the arriving move partial rather than complete. The quiet seal is the fourth movement, and the quiet seal of the drop everything sacred closing is the same as the quiet seal of every sacred closing. The holding of the stillness that follows the declaration, the protection of the resonance, the allowing of the declaration to settle into the depth of the interior where it will be operating in the concentrated period ahead. Hold the stillness. Do not rush to begin the concentrated work immediately. Give the declaration 30 seconds to settle. Let the interior be resonant. Let the quality of the aligned posture be present before the day begins. The resonance of the declaration is the beginning of the concentrated period. Let it settle before the period begins its first day. Let me describe what the first day of the concentrated period looks like from the inside for the chosen one who has completed the sacred closing of this message and who wakes up the next morning to begin the 33-minute window. The morning begins with the awareness that the concentrated period has started, not the dramatic awareness of the spiritual warrior beginning the battle. The simple awareness of the person who has identified the specific daily window and who is about to fill it with the specific work that the window was cleared for. The interior carries the residue of the declaration that was made in the closing of this message, not as an emotional peak that needs to be sustained, as a quiet quality of the aligned interior that is the post-declaration state. The quality of the interior that settled during the quiet seal is still present in the morning, diminished by the sleep, but not erased. The concentrated period begins from that quiet quality. The 8-minute whole brain activation practice comes first. The chosen one opens the daily practice, begins the session, and allows the neural synchronization technology to do its work in the 8 minutes of the session. The eyes close. The body settles. The frequency layering of the audio begins the entrainment process that brings the left and right hemispheres toward the coherent, synchronized state. In the first session, the 8 minutes will produce a perceptible quality of interior settling and a slight increase in the receptive quality of the interior. Not dramatic, measurable. The morning after the first session is slightly clearer than the morning before it. After the 8 minutes, the 25-minute concentrated work session begins, the foundational level first. The chosen one opens the written inventory that was done at the beginning of the concentrated period, or does it on this first morning if it has not been done. The 3-item inventory of the depth, the alignment, and the listening backlog, written in the honest language of the direct interior experience. This first writing of the inventory takes approximately 8 to 10 minutes of the 25-minute window. Not rushed, not elaborate, honest and direct. After the inventory, the chosen one identifies the single most pressing item in the listening backlog from the 3 items written and begins the clearing practice for that item. Full reception of the item. Honest acknowledgement of the weight it has been carrying. First, small step of the specific response the interior already knows is required. This takes approximately 5 minutes of the concentrated work window. The alignment level practices take the next 7 to 8 minutes. 1 minute of the compass recalibration, bringing the interior to the single question of where the compass is currently pointing and registering the interior knowing rather than the analytical answer. 1 minute of the Dabar discipline identification, identifying the specific interior items that belong in the held category for today. And then 5 to 6 minutes of the activation level work, 2 minutes of the extended breath of delay, 2 minutes of the compass recalibration from inside the depth of the breath of delay, 3 minutes of the new season identity declaration, spoken slowly from the full interior presence, ending in the 30 seconds of the quiet seal. That is the first morning of the concentrated period, 33 minutes. 8 of neural synchronization preparation, 25 of concentrated work across all 3 levels of the architecture. The interior that begins the day from that 33 minutes is qualitatively different from the interior that begins the day from the management mode. Not dramatically different on the first morning, measurably different. And the measurable difference on the first morning becomes the progressively larger measurable difference over 21 mornings, as the compounding of the consistent daily practice builds the neurological restoration and the interior gap closure in the progressive sequence that the concentrated period was designed to produce. By the 7th morning, the first interior quality of the gap closing, the lightening, is measurably present. The weight of the morning interior is lighter than it was at the beginning. The backlog is clearing. The management resource that was being used to maintain the management mode is being progressively redirected to the actual work of the gap closure. The interior is lighter because the work is actually being done rather than managed. By the 14th morning, the 2nd and 3rd interior qualities are both present and measurable. The signal sharpening and the receiving depth restoration. The interior signals that were vague are becoming more specific. The direction that was blurred is beginning to clarify. The quality of the morning prayer is beginning to feel more two-directional than it did in the management mode. The interior compass is pointing more steadily in the direction of the assignment than it was when the compass recalibration had not yet produced the progressive recalibration that 2 weeks of daily practice has built. By the 21st morning, the 4th interior quality, the vision clarity restoration, is measurably present. The vision of the assignment, the specific vision that the calling established and that the test season blurred through the accumulated left hemisphere dominance, is coming back into resolution. Not the full resolution of the original clarity, the measurable increase in the resolution that the 21-day concentrated period was designed to produce. The increase that positions the interior at the level of the full reception of the arriving move. That is the interior journey of the 21-day concentrated period, not a spiritual fairy tale. The specific, measurable, daily compounding of the consistent, concentrated work, and the neurological restoration that the whole brain activation practice supports. 7 days to the lightening, 14 days to the signal sharpening and the receiving depth, 21 days to the vision clarity. The sequence is the clinical observation of a neurologist who spent 2 decades watching this process in the interiors of the chosen ones, who committed to the daily window and who reported the specific interior qualities in the specific order in which they arrived. The chosen one who began this message in the half-belief, who recognized the 5 signs and identified the primary deficit and understood the architecture and now holds the map of the concentrated period, is positioned at the threshold of beginning. The beginning is the act that the sacred closing was designed to produce. The declaration was the alignment. The quiet seal was the settling. And the 33 minutes tomorrow morning is the first act of the living of the alignment. Now the 3 acts of the chosen one who received this message and who wants to be the reason that the next chosen one receives it. The first act is the like. Press the like button right now if this message named the gap that needed to be named in your interior, not as a gesture of approval, as the specific act that signals the platform to send this message to the next chosen one who has been receiving the drop everything signal and who needs to find the map that this message carries. Your engagement is the carrier for the next person. Press it now. The second act is the comment. I want you to type 4 words in the comments below. Not a general response, not a description of how the message landed. The 4 words that declare the specific interior posture of the chosen one who is beginning the concentrated response. Type this in the comments. I am ready for everything that was prepared. Type those words. Let the comment section of this message be the gathered record of the chosen ones who were behind, who received the map, who named the gap, who released the management posture, and who began the concentrated response. The comment section becomes the evidence of the drop everything moment, the evidence of all the chosen ones who heard the signal clearly and who responded with the full weight of the interior that the signal called for. Your 4 words are your entry into that record. Type them now. The third act is the share, not to a list, to one person. The specific person who came to your mind during this message, the one who is behind, the one who has been managing the gap rather than closing it, the one who needs the map. Send them this message. Let the map reach them through you. The tool is in the description. $39 today. 4 bonus materials. 100% guarantee. Neural synchronization technology. Not available on streaming platforms. The description link is the only access. The description link is there right now. Chosen one, I want to leave you with this final word. The God who placed this message in your path today is the same God who designed the drop everything signal and who has been sending it to you for the duration of the period in which the gap has been present. He did not send the signal to frustrate you. He sent it because the appointed time for the move is arriving, and the gap between where your interior is positioned and where it needs to be positioned for the full reception is still closable. The closing is available. The path is clear. The tool is provided. The timeline is defined. The architecture is described. Everything you need for the concentrated response is present. The only element remaining is the beginning. Drop everything, begin the concentrated period today, and get ready for everything that was prepared. God bless you, chosen one. The gap is closing, the move is arriving, and the speechlessness is coming.